Meeting is now called to order. A roll call, please.
Vice President Cons,
Here.
Director Wilburn,
Here.
Director Yanez,
Here.
Director Payne,
Here.
President Shandy.
Here. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Director Susan Payne.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to our board meeting, our Board of Education meeting this evening. We're excited to start our gathering by celebrating the outstanding faculty, staff, and students of D20. Their hard work deserves our recognition, so we encourage applause during this celebration. Let's get started. Mrs. Ruckman, are there any updates to this agenda?
There were updates to the agenda and the board has been made aware of these.
Members of the board, are there any items you wish to move from the consent agenda? Are there any discussion items to be added to the agenda? May we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Vice President Cons,
Aye.
Director Wilburn,
Aye.
Director Yanez,
Aye.
Director Payne,
Aye.
President Shandy.
Aye. All right, does anyone have anything to share for board comments tonight? Director Cons, would you like to start us off?
I will. This is a heavy time for America. My heart and prayers go out to all of those affected by the Evergreen and Charlie Kirk shootings. I'd like to share this commentary. It is by Aaron Burnett, called "When a Conversation Gets You Killed, We've Lost the Plot." Let me say this as plainly as I can. We are in real trouble. On Wednesday, Charlie Kirk was assassinated during a Q&A session at a university campus in Utah. Let that sink in. A political commentator was murdered, not in a war zone, not during a riot, but while speaking into a microphone and answering questions from people who disagreed with him. He wasn't inciting violence. He wasn't calling for blood. He was doing exactly what we say we want in this country: talking, debating, showing up in person to engage face-to-face with folks who don't see the world the way he does. And for that, someone killed him. This isn't about whether you liked Charlie Kirk. That's irrelevant. Agree with him, disagree with him, think he's dead wrong on every issue. Fine. That's your right. But when we get to the point where people are gunned down for the crime of having an opinion, we've crossed a line we may never come back from. We've become a culture where disagreement is treated as violence and actual violence is justified as some kind of moral response. People walk around like they're righteous vigilantes because someone dared to challenge their worldview. We've allowed emotional fragility to masquerade as courage and confusion to parade as justice. What happened to us? This country was built on the idea that we can argue, protest, debate, and even offend each other without fearing for our lives. We have the First Amendment for a reason. You don't get to kill someone because they said something you didn't like. That's not activism, that's terrorism. Take the people who cheer this kind of thing on, and yes, there are some, and drop them in Syria or Russia or China. In those countries, they don't even need a reason. You say the wrong thing about the government, you vanish. You criticize the wrong leader, you wind up in a prison cell or a body bag. Over there, people dream of having the freedoms we're squandering here. And yet here we are, a nation so spoiled by liberty that some now see free speech as a threat and silencing others by force as noble. Charlie Kirk showed up. He brought his voice, not a weapon. He opened the floor to questions. He didn't demand silence or compliance. He didn't shout down the opposition. He leaned in, welcomed the challenge, and gave people a shot at changing his mind. He died doing what more of us should be doing, talking across the aisle instead of screaming across it. What happened Wednesday isn't just a tragedy, it's a warning. We've reached a place where many Americans now view their political opponents not as wrong, but as evil. not as misinformed, but as dangerous. And once you convince yourself that that person across from you is dangerous, then anything becomes justified, including murder. This isn't how democracies survive. This is how they collapse. Not with a bang, but with a slow cultural rot, with censorship disguised as safety, with cowardice disguised as conviction, with bullets replacing ballots. If we don't turn this ship around, and soon, we're going to find ourselves in a country that no longer resembles anything close to the America we inherited. And worse, our kids won't know the difference. They'll grow up thinking this is normal, that if someone disagrees with you, you destroy them. Not in the comment section, not on a ballot, but in real life. That should scare the heck out of all of us. We need to relearn how to live with disagreement. We need to stop idolizing outrage and start rebuilding mutual respect, even when, especially when, we don't see eye to eye. Because without that, we're not a country. We're just a powder keg with a flag on it. So with this election season starting in our district and around many districts, I am imploring every single person in our community to focus on ideas and not personalities. This is the only way to affect positive change and solutions for our students, our staff, and our school district. Focus on people only leads to division and hate. Collaborating on ideas leads to growth and hope.
Thank you, Vice President Collins. Director Wilburn, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I do. Very well said, Director Collins. Even though you're reading somebody else's words, it's extraordinarily appropriate. As long as we are itemizing those for whom we pray, here within, I think this is less than an hour old. On my feed, it's 37 minutes. There has been a shooting at the United States Naval Academy. Not a lot of details surrounding that, but of course, being home to a service academy right across the street, that's a little bit too close for many of us. So add that to your list. Let us hope everybody there is safe. On a lighter note, I do want to let the room know why I'm not there in person today. We got some great news. That is my oldest son, Connor. Speaking of the Air Force Academy, he is a pilot. That's his wife, Esther, who is also a United States Air Force captain. And they just welcomed our first grandbaby into the world last Wednesday. That is little Jehu. Jehu was born 7 pounds, 3 ounces. My wife and I are here now. We're in Spokane, Washington. They're stationed at Fairchild Air Force Base. So we're here helping with newborn duty, doing the 2 a.m. feedings, all that stuff that all of you remember. Couldn't have come at a better time. As many of you in the room know, we've had a long couple of years in the Wilburn household, and we were due for some blessings and some good news, and it couldn't have come in a more adorable package. So I couldn't resist the opportunity to take my first proud grandpa moment. There's my first grandson right there.
Precious. All right, Director Payne.
Well, thanks for your words, Director Collins. I wanted to add on that over the last 24 hours, many of you know I work on the multidisciplinary team at the national level with the National Threat Assessment Center, and we also were learning of the shooting at the United States Air Force Academy. But also I was on the phone with children that graduated from District 20 that were at yesterday's event in Utah. And I just want to say it's a time for anybody in this audience to have the conversation with the people that are in your circle about how we talk to each other, how we recover in the aftermath, because the secondary impact of violence or what this brings to us as a country or our children, these are adult issues that they're not well prepared to manage their feelings of. But also for me as a 27-year law enforcement veteran, the things that I've seen in my career are things you can't unsee. But we have a lot of supports in place, and we have teams, and we work together, the military sitting here as well. But our children today see graphic images and videos online, and as they're scrolling through the internet, the violence they're exposed to, that they can't go to sleep at night and that they've seen, is something that we all as adults need to help manage better. So I just wanted to say that our thoughts and prayers are with all of those impacted, not only at Evergreen High School, but in Utah as well today. But we're so grateful for the people that do keep us safe in our schools. And I'm so grateful that this district, we have our armed security team, which is one of the, I would say, the largest school safety armed security division in the state of Colorado, that includes even those heroes in our elementary school. So I'm so grateful for those supports, but I want to remind our community and our parents to make sure that you look for concerns in behavior, that you recognize those warning signs and indicators, and that you speak up if you see them, because we are all willing to respond if there are any concerns, and that we manage it in a way that we're having really healthy conversations about the aftermath of these traumatic incidents.
Thank you, Director Payne. Director Yanez.
Thank you. Quickly, I just want to talk about hope, because I immediately yesterday started to think about the sixth graders that I taught at Chinook Trail Middle School, specifically as their English teacher, and oral presentation skills and communication, and how to build an argument, and weaving those two things together. And we would debate, and we would come up with all kinds of topics. I remember one in particular, whether or not football helmets were safe enough to play the sport, and kind of dropping that and watching sixth grade boys, should we just get rid of football? Don't ever do that debate with sixth grade boys. They get really impassioned. But on purpose, right? Because I wanted to teach them how to argue, and how to argue well, and how to do so effectively with focusing on the issue and not the people. And I can tell you that after practicing, they did it expertly. And I would put sentence stems on desks. And one that sticks out to me that they loved to use was, they would say, I see what you're saying, but the view from my window looks differently, right? Or different. And we can do that. We will do that. We have to do that. We have to model that for our students, our kids. And I know they can, because they left my classroom doing it really well. So healthy civil discourse is part of the fabric of who we are. And I just implore all of us to get back to that place, live there, and argue well.
Thank you. I also wanted to say something tonight about it, as we take this moment to address the heaviness many of us are feeling. Yesterday we witnessed heartbreaking violence, including the tragic school shooting in Evergreen and the loss of Charlie Kirk. Today also marks the anniversary of 9/11, a day that forever changed our nation. In his address last night, President Trump emphasized the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, as Director Vice President Collins talked about. I echo his call for this to stop. We must find ways to treat one another with respect and dignity. And as the adults in the room, it's our responsibility to model this civility for our students. We can have tough conversations and hold different views, but we can do this with civility. As a member of this board, I'm also aware that where sometimes labels are unrightfully placed on us, labels intended to divide us and our community. But let me be clear, my commitment is to serve this district with integrity, to foster a safe environment for our children, and to lead with compassion and love. I believe this is the board's commitment as well. Let us, the D20 community, be leaders in working together to improve our educational system in an atmosphere of peace, kindness, and mutual respect. I would like to take 30 seconds to just have silence and remember all the lives lost yesterday, and to remember Charlie Kirk, and to remember all of those still affected by 9/11 today. So, Mr. Scatalides, 30 seconds on the clock, please. All right, I would like to now turn the focus to a celebration for a second. Colonel, did you have comment or anything?
The only thing I'll add on behalf of General Bauernfein and the United States Air Force Academy, our condolences are with all those who were impacted by the events yesterday. Of course, we are remembering today. Cadets right now are standing in formation on the grounds at the Academy, remembering the events of 9/11 24 years ago, where ordinary Americans became eternal symbols of heroism. To the fearless first responders who charged into flames and the passengers who rose against evil, the soul stolen too soon. Your legacy is the bedrock of our nation's and our nation's resilience. So,
Thank you, Colonel. That was beautiful. Okay, so I would like to take a moment for a celebration. We're going to do Spotlight a little bit differently tonight. I would like to invite Mr. Pat Shoemaker to come up, please. I'd like to embarrass you for a moment. In the best of ways, please come forward. I just, I wanted to be able to look you in the eye tonight and say thank you for all you do. You've been under a lot of scrutiny lately, and just couldn't say thank you enough for what you do for your building, for your team, for your teachers, all the accusations that were thrown at you that aren't true. I just wanted to say thank you. So thank you for coming. Superintendent Haber.
All right, well, I'm going to build off Director Yanez's theme around hope, right? And we have so much to celebrate here in D20 because every day we give our kids hope to become good communicators, both in writing and orally, and know how to put together a good argument, and to be really literate. And we know that literacy, especially proficiency in literacy at starting at 3rd grade, is so vitally important, because we know that students who leave high school who don't know how to read are going to be at disadvantage for their whole life. And so I'm super excited to talk about our district performance framework. For 17 years in a row, we have gotten District of Distinction. And I don't ever want to take that for granted. It is really, really rigorous and hard to be a District of Distinction. I was with other superintendents in the area, and there was one district that missed it by 1 point. And they were so frustrated because they've been working so hard. And I think it may be easy to take that for granted here in D20, but we can't ever do that. Our staff, our teachers, our folks here at the EAC, we really have a team that's second to none, and they work hard every day. And we just have so many amazing systems in place to help support our schools and our students. And so it's a true celebration to say that we got accredited with distinction. We work hard every year. If there's some year we don't get it, we're still working hard and we're still achieving well with our kids. So it was this recognition was first established. The first distinction category was in 2008 and 2009 school year. And it signifies that a school district consistently meets or exceeds state expectations across key metrics for student academic growth and achievement. And when you look at, I know that Jolyn Patterson and Dr. Field are going to talk about the strategic plan and our district performance framework a little bit later, but also when you look at the high school performance frameworks, it's all about that post-secondary readiness that we've been focusing on. Number of industry certifications, our graduation rate, and all of that. And I really appreciate that they put those pieces on the high school performance frameworks, because it takes that whole child approach and keep us forward with, we backwards plan, knowing that our students need to be ready to take advantage of those opportunities. I was just with elementary and middle school counselors today, and they're already looking at how can they work together to best prepare students to really put some planning into that ICAP, that individual career and academic plan, but starting to explore their careers and what do I want to do when I grow up? What are my strengths, right? Even preschool kids will sometimes dress up like policemen or firemen, and so it's not too soon. And I was thrilled to find out that many of our counselors in our schools are already using the Galaxy program, which is our new platform that helps students to explore their interests even at early age. And so there's a lot to celebrate there. And just for fun, we did put out a little video that I think truly is a tribute to our amazing teachers. Can you put the sound, please? And then let's reverse it and start it with sound, please.
District 20.
I'll be good. All right.
District 20, Team 1. We did it. I'm thrilled to share that for the 17th year in a row, Academy District 20 has earned accredited with distinction. This is the state's highest performance ranking by the Colorado Department of Education. We are one of a select few districts in Colorado to achieve this distinction for 17 years in a row. This achievement is a testament to our theme this year, Team 1. Together we thrive. From our outstanding teachers and support staff to our engaged administrators, our committed Board of Education, and our families and community members, we appreciate you. We look at this new data point with pride, but we will also continue to analyze a body of evidence to best support student academic achievement and growth. This data will become our roadmap to ensure that all students have the knowledge, skills, and character necessary for post-secondary success. These insights will also strengthen our ability to take a whole child approach with a focus on learning within our professional learning communities, empowering our teachers and staff to meet the individual needs of students. Congratulations to each of you for your dedication to ensuring that all students learn at high levels. Great truly happens here in D20.
Truly appreciate all the amazing Team 1 that we have here, which includes our parents especially. So we also took a chance, we started this last year recognizing schools that had a 74 or higher, which 74 is the cut point for being a school of distinction. And so we recognized them at our last K-12 principal meeting, and they all had their certificates, which was fun. It was fun trying to get the picture. Actually, everyone was helping out with that. And these are all of our schools, and you can see why we're a district of distinction. We have so many schools that met that mark. And I also want to celebrate schools that aren't on the list because there's various factors that can affect student achievement. There were some schools where maybe they had teachers that for one reason or another had to leave in the summer, and then they had to have like a long-term substitute there. And so every year, you know, people might go up and down, but it's a celebration every year. And I told the principals, celebrating these schools is really a celebration of all of our schools and the hard work that all of our teachers do every single day. And we have the folks here. I'm so excited. You guys can come on up. I think Charlie, right? Charlie Whites, I think you're going to talk to us about the pilot program. So we have 6 D20 Air Force JROTC students who successfully completed the intensive 8-week JF ROTC Flight Academy this summer at civilian universities around the country via an Air Force scholarship to earn their private pilot license. So would all of you please stand up and let us give you recognition together? And these students are Zachary Dewing, Liam Bracey, Charles Whites, who's going to share a little bit about the pilot program and what you experienced. Alina Alina Makamadova. There we are. Sorry about that. Andrew Purdy and Jeremiah Tuteki. So thank you. Let's give them one more round of applause. And we'll ask you guys to stick around because we want to be sure to get a picture with you. So Charlie, can you tell us about your program?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am. First of all, I would like to say thank you for the invite to the board meeting tonight. I'm very happy to be here and be able to share my experiences with you tonight. My name is Charles Weitz. As you guys know, I'm joined by just a couple of us who had the amazing opportunity to go down to civilian universities and earn our private pilot's license. So 3 of us, myself, Liam Bracey, and Andrew Purdy, we were lucky enough to go down together. We were all at a university together. Andrew Purdy and I were actually roommates, which is very rare. That's not typically something they do. They like to split up whatever people get selected, send them across different universities. But so we got down there, and it was pretty much right out the gate. We were flying every day. So we would get there about 7 a.m. in the morning, and we'd stay there until about 6 p.m. and we'd be flying and doing ground lessons. So we had a partner, and we'd get there, we'd get our weight and balance done for the day, and then we'd head out the door with our instructor, and we'd be out there for 4 hours in the air. And while the other one was back at the airport in the classroom, studying our ground material. So it was really just a great opportunity to learn not only more about flying, but just a lot about ourselves as people, and like develop in that way as well. I think I can speak for all of us in saying that we're not just pilots, but we're better people now, which is an awesome thing for me to be able to say. But yeah, we had a lot of fun. I'll share a story, I guess. It was the night after, or it was the day after our night flights. So that the night before, we had been up at, I left the airport, we took off at 11 p.m. and we got back at 3 a.m. from our night flight. And the next day I was tired. I got some good sleep, but we landed back on the ground and we were refueling, and it's actually kind of, they wanted to give me a call sign, but we were on the ground, we were refueling at the fuel tank, and I'm filling up my tank, and the nozzle slips out of my hand and it hits the wing, and I absolutely spray my instructor all over in the face. And at that moment, I felt quite stupid in that moment, but it was all right. But yeah, just those moments and those kind of things are what push us to be like, those experiences are just so much more valuable than anything else I've ever done in my entire life. And I would just like to say again, thank you for inviting us out here and allowing us to share tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And Colonel Hubert, will you please stand up? I just want to give a round of applause to Colonel Hubert. His team, they win national awards every year, and I know appreciate your leadership and putting this together to give our students this opportunity. So let's give Colonel Hubert a hand as well.
And read his book if you haven't already.
Yes. She said, read your book. I know you're an author now too, so yeah. Yep.
We sent 7 students to the Flight Academy this year. They picked 225 students from 850 JRTC units. So the average unit gets none. And so the fact that we sent 7 was pretty special this year. 6 of them got their license. The 5 you see here, the one who graduated last year, and he's up at the University of North Dakota.
Oh.
And then we have 1 more who the weather didn't cooperate and he's not quite finished yet, but we did very well this year.
It's huge. One more round of applause. And again, please stay so we can get a picture with you guys. So we have many more celebrations. The Pikes Peak Regional Science and Engineering Fair was held in Columbus, Ohio. Over 1,300 projects from 65 countries were entered, and Vanya Lavu, a senior at TCA, earned second place award from the American Psychological Award, and a fourth place category award went to Ayush Vespute, who is a sophomore at Rampart High School. He's also on my superintendent council and will be going to CASB, I believe. And he earned a fourth place category. So a huge celebration and thank you to them. Oops, a little crazy there. So we also want to huge thank you to our D20 Education Foundation. They go all out every year for the golf tournament. And we had 28 teams, about 112 golfers, and numerous sponsors. This is the 25th annual golf tournament, and they believe they're going to raise nearly $50,000. And that money is important. They've awarded more than $60,000 to teachers over the past 2 years, $46,000 in scholarships, and $27,000 to district programs. And so I'd like to recognize the folks on the D20 Education Foundation. Karen Reynolds as the president, Glenn Strebe as the vice president, Chris Palmer, secretary, Tom Gregory as the treasurer, Greg Stevens is our director, and Krakovich is a director, Cindy Wenzel is a director, and Dave Momquist. Can we give them a round of applause as well? And then we have Emma Lou, a senior at Pine Creek High School. She is making a global impact through her nonprofit Apex SAT, which she co-founded with her brother and a friend. Apex SAT provides free SAT and ACT tutoring to help students succeed in their college admissions journey. To date, the organization has supported more than 4,000 students across the nation and around the world. And recently, KRDO spotlighted Emma and Apex SAT in their school buzz report. And a huge shout out to Air Academy High School. It was so much fun. They went around to different schools just promoting and celebrating the start of the year. Came through the EAC. I couldn't help but get my picture with our cadet there, the true bird. And but it was really fun, and it was just a great way to celebrate, and their band does an excellent job. I can't wait to see their marching band this year. We have dedicated now a special ed highlight every superintendent update because we have so many great things that are going on with our special education program. And tonight we're going to celebrate a special education digital learning coach, Kim Watts. She received an $8,500 grant from the Colorado Statewide Internet Portable Authority to advance digital accessibility under House Bill 21110. This funding is going to support auditing, redesigning, and staff training to ensure equitable access for students with disabilities. The award was presented by the Denver Broncos from the legend Terrell Davis and highlights our district's commitment to accessibility and inclusive learning. So a huge thank you to Kim Watts. And then we talked about at the end of the year, how do we tie the superintendent update to the strategic plan? So this is our first attempt with that. All of those school visits really are also about connection, but also around academic excellence. I walk classrooms with principals, and their APs are starting to join too. And after we go into a teacher's classroom, we come out and say, you know, what did you see? What were the celebrations? What might be some wonderings or potential next steps? And it's just really been a great opportunity to hear the reflection. I'm learning so much more about teaching and learning that happens in our classrooms, and just that conversation has been really helpful also in letting me know, okay, what's really working in the classroom, and then Susan and I come back and talk, and we're able to take that to different district departments based on what I'm hearing during those walkthroughs. So that has been really awesome.
And so this was one of my walkthroughs. I think it was yesterday, actually, at Douglas Valley Elementary School. They're super excited about their PK8. Adrienne Morey, the principal there, couldn't wait to tell me all about the colors that they picked out. Evidently, the design team originally had, like she said, a basketball orange and black and and then really bright tiles, which she said, no, you don't want bright colors along with all the energy that comes with especially the earlier grades. So they picked some nice blues and teals. And so I'm excited to see what they came up with. But I had an opportunity to visit professional learning communities, which was awesome. A 4th grade team and a 5th grade team. And I know, and a shout out to Dr. Field and the Learning Services because they have put together, one thing that the board asked about was how do we measure the effectiveness of PLCs, right, in different schools? And we have the tight, loose, tight document, which we've shared with you. Here's what has to be tight with PLCs across the district. Here's what can be loose as far as all the choices that teachers and principals can make. But they also came out with a PLC walkthrough form. And this just came out and some principals are still introducing it to their staff. But it's really awesome. So we were kind of looking at this when we went to these 2 teams and like, what do we see them focusing on? And I think this form will also be helpful for PLC teams to say, oh, where are we at? Is there a part of our PLC process that we're missing? And then there might be a way to use this feedback on an ongoing basis to say, you know, what are some of those really excelling teams around PLCs and which ones are still starting out and just might need some more support. So I was super excited to see that. And then Adrienne's holding up, they did one of the first and most important, just like we did with the board, is to come together as a PLC and have those collective commitments. And you can see that the staff members signed on there. And it was a fun visit and the teachers they're amazing.
Is to educate and inspire all students to thrive in a safe and supportive environment. Our vision is smiles, stories, and success for all. What collective commitments are responsibility, respect, support, recognition, collaboration, inspiration, growth, and rigor.
So, you know, it's important to have student voices in the room, but teacher voices in the room are the best as well. So that was really fun, and I appreciated Adrienne sharing that with me. Dr. Field and I are collaborating with UCCS to do our principal cohort. We have 20 teachers and other licensed staff who are part of this cohort, and I am an adjunct with UCCS in helping Dr. Field and our UCCS partner to do a class on vision, ethics, and politics, and it's been awesome. We really have some amazing teachers and other licensed staff that are a part of this cohort, and it's been really fun to get to know them and spend some time. And you learn so much about what's happening in schools too, right, Dr. Field? When you're listening to the conversations, you kind of get a view of what's going really well and maybe where there's some places we still need to provide support. Teacher Cadet Program. It was so fun. I had a chance to have the teacher cadets come and visit with me. And we have, how many do we have? Get there. We have 9 seniors from the Teacher Cadet Program who came, and they are from like Village High School. Discovery Canyon has quite a few, and Air Academy were the 3 schools that were represented there. And they were just excited. I asked them what level they wanted to teach at, and most of them said elementary. So I tried to talk them into exploring some secondary options as well, since I was a secondary teacher. But they were just a joy, and they're super excited about the program. And really a special thank you to Dr. Becky Harris, Dr. Koselek, Shane Knight, Mark Belcher, Peter Risting, Chris Eggleston, Kathleen Garner, and Kaylee Arthur. They, after they met with me, they had a chance to do kind of a job shadowing each of these folks to learn more about all the different aspects that keep a district running.
Discovery Canyon Elementary School, Principal Steve Scott and staff from DCC Elementary visited Children's Hospital last week to deliver a special gift. The school community came together to collect new children's books for the hospital's neonatal intensive care unit. And the NICU team encourages families to read with their infants during their stay. And thanks to this donation, families will have an even greater selection of books to enjoy together. So we did start up our engagement meetings again, which was awesome. And I'll show you a list of all the different groups that we are meeting with, that I'm meeting with on a regular basis. And again, our Student Superintendent Advisory Council, we have 26 students total, both juniors and seniors. It's the largest group that I've had since I've been here. And they represent each of our 7 high schools, which is awesome. And we had a chance to share about the portrait of the graduate. And then it was really fun. We had a chance to share about AI. And they were really excited to give us some very direct feedback around that. And we also talked about Navigator, and it is an amazing program. Not only does it give students an opportunity to explore careers, there is PSAT and SAT prep tests on there. So if I was a parent and I had a junior or senior, I'd want them to get on and start, take some of those tests ahead of time. Not the actual test, but a prep test. And the really cool thing is it's got a electronic portfolio, which I actually started talking to elementary and middle school counselors about. And they could start putting work in there in elementary school all the way through high school. And then they can continue to access that electric portfolio even beyond their graduation date, which is awesome. And then Jolynn talked a little bit about iExcel. And I think we still have some more research to do on this, but I think we're starting to see a real correlation between increased academic growth and places where teachers are using iExcel with fidelity. These are all the different groups, and there's one other group that I would add on here, and that's the Principal Advisory Group. I meet with them once a quarter. I created that when I was here just to make sure that I had a principal group that I was meeting with on an ongoing basis. Have gotten some great feedback from them and some changes that have been made in the system because of the feedback of these different groups. Parent Sounding Board's now the Parent Council. And that way it's just consistent across the board. Council, in that council meeting, we all collaborate. We talk about topics that we identify as important. And over the past 2 years, the same topics have come up from parents and stakeholders around, we want to know about budget, we want to know about security, we want to know about some of these various topics. So we're weaving those in. But really the purpose, share important district initiatives, receive feedback related to the strategic plan or significant topics that we have during those sessions. And we came up with shared agreements last year, so you can take a look at those. And I'll be sharing this again with all of the different councils in our October meeting. And it's also different this year because we're going to have a field trip to Liberty, and stakeholders, we have a limited amount, but across all this different engagement groups, they have an opportunity to sign up to go to Liberty and to take a tour of the schools. And then in the spring, we're hoping to go to the Chinooks and give parents, our patrons are really excited about getting into schools, to give them a chance to actually get in schools and not just sit here at the EAC for those time periods. I am so excited about the root cause analysis that we're doing. We celebrated the district performance framework, but there's always room for improvement, always. And we're always digging into data. And I think of all the amazing thing that's happened in D20, this is truly a systemic effort. I have not seen this level of analysis and work around data in any other district I've been in. And so really a shout out to Dr. Field, Learning Services, principals, and their leadership with teachers to really dig in. And I was super excited. So I'm gonna bring another form and then kind of pass it around during our break.
and I've got a picture of it there. So that's called a fishbone, and they kind of, the principals were together with an AP or a teacher from their school, and they were brainstorming, okay, here's our data. What are some, and this is an example, this isn't a real one, but it's one that Dr. Koselleck put together. What do we think some of those causes would be? And then down below, you can see, okay, let's take one of what we think the cause is for an area that we know we need to improve in. And then that's the root cause. So the down below, it's like, what is the cause we want to investigate? That top one says why. Why do we think that's important? And then, how can we dig deeper into that? And I love graphic organizers. I think it gives, it organizes people's thoughts, and it really systematizes and causes, I think, more action as opposed to just talking about things and not really organizing it and have it in writing. So kudos to our principals, learning services teams for the work that they're doing around that. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Superintendent Haber. Tonight, we have one new administrator to approve. Mr. Smart, would you please make that introduction?
Yeah, before I do, I want to thank these students for being here. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a helicopter pilot. And then I remembered I'm afraid of heights. So that kind of shot that down. And my call sign would have been Scaredy Cat. So I already have it ready to go. All right, so tonight I want to introduce Stephanie Laramie. Stephanie Laramie, who has a great last name. If you guys know, there's a town up north of us where an elite university is at. She is here to be recommended for the interim administrator for Aspen Valley High School. She holds a Bachelor's of Arts in English from Washington State and a Master's of Arts in Educational Leadership from the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. Now, she has a unique career because her husband works for the military. And so she's been all over. She's been in Washington, I think, like 5 times, different times going back and forth. Been in Germany, been in Las Vegas, and also Cheyenne, Wyoming. Not Laramie, but it's close. It's good. And then she came to Colorado and worked in District 49, went back to Washington, and then came to District 20, where she's worked at Aspen Valley High School as interventionist and MTS coordinator, as well as many other things. She's currently serving as the Dean of Students at Liberty High School. So we're pleased to recommend Stephanie tonight for the position of interim administrator for Aspen Valley High School. Anything you'd like to say? She has something to say. She's coming up.
It's true. My educational journey is pretty long. I've been in education for 22 years. I started in Washington State, and this is a dream come true for me. So I just really wanted to say thank you for the opportunity. I really love Aspen Valley High School. I never knew alternative education until I put my foot in the door there a few years ago. And so I'm just really looking forward to an awesome year. And thank you so much.
Thank you. That's all I have for tonight. Well, till later.
All right, thank you. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda as posted.
Moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Vice President Cons,
Aye.
Director Wilburn,
Aye.
Director Yanez,
Aye.
Director Payne,
Aye.
President Shandy.
Aye. There are 19 people right now viewing the live stream. We're going to take a 10-minute break to take pictures with all of those recognized. See you in 10. 2-minute warning. This is our 2-minute warning.
On a red line.
10 seconds. Please find your seats. Thank you. All right. Thank you all very, very much. It's always incredibly inspiring to begin our meeting by celebrating the hard work and achievements of our D20 students, faculty, and staff. Now we transition into the business portion of our meeting, a time for thoughtful discussion and decision making. Out of respect for this focus, we ask that applause be held during this part of the session as we shift our attention to the important work ahead. Thank you so very much. There are no items pulled from the consent agenda. That takes us to our written report, starting with hiring report. Does anyone have any comments or questions? All right. Summer School 2025 summary report. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Vice President Cons.
Thank you. Really, I just wanted to point out and give congratulations to Ms. Ruskin and her team for the success of the summer reading program. I assume that's still your thing, but it looks like you found a winning model. I feel like the results were mixed the last few years and just some huge strides. So I just want to say congrats to you and your team.
Thank you, Vice President Cons. New licensed staff orientation. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Vice President Cons.
2 comments. Mr. Smart already stole my thunder because he was making sure we knew, but I did notice that the feedback, the evaluations from the new staff for all of our cabinet's presentations, Mr. Smart got 98 and 99%.
Woo!
Positive results. So way to go. Thank you very much to you and your team. And I also just want to tell Superintendent Haber and our whole team that the major focus on all the work of Results Now 2.0 and what's come about from that was really evident to me in this slideshow. And so I was just thrilled to see all the focus on training because that's where it's key to continue that work. So thank you.
Glad to know that the name of Schmoker has not become a dirty word as we all focus on that. So 2025 summer projects update. Does anyone have any questions or comments? 25,
Yes,
26.
Ms. Sandy.
Yes, Director Wilburn. Sorry, I've been trying to give a longer pause. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's always a little bit of a delay. I'm having some tech difficulties. I can't see the report and I'm not sure who's in the room, but I remember last time we got this report last year, there was some repair work on elevators that we talked about because there were some complications or what have you. I seem to remember when I reviewed this report a couple of days ago that those same repairs were now on a temporary hiatus, on a hold. Something was going on. Can we get an update on whatever that is and wherever that is?
Mike Redmond.
Yes, Mr. Redmond will come up. Mr. Wilburn, he's our Director for Facilities, and he will explain why the work needed to be suspended until this upcoming summer.
Yes, unfortunately, the people we're working with just up and decided to move their whole business to a different state. So, in movement, yeah, it took us by surprise in moving a company as large as theirs. Our elevator parts and the things we needed ended up getting misplaced as they are shipping everything around. So what's going to happen is the elevator repairs will get added to next year's elevator repairs. So when I come in June and give you the presentation saying this is what we're going to do for the summer, there'll be 4 elevators that we're working on at that time.
Okay, cool. So nothing inside of our control. So I
No.
did actually remember seeing that. I was it Aspen Valley? Where was that? Was it Liberty?
I don't want to say the wrong place. So Aspen Valley and Rampart.
Rampart. Okay. Thank you.
Yep, Aspen Valley High School.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank
25-26 student enrollment update. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Changes to administrative policies update. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Vice President Kunz.
Sorry, just trying to follow my notes here.
Yep, no, you're
2 things. I had just, in our meeting, our agenda setting meeting with Superintendent Haber, I had just asked if on a future agenda we could talk about cell phone device prohibitions, get an update from the schools. But then lo and behold, the next day, I see that your administrative team just added this whole policy or updated the JICJ, so district-wide. So we can take that off a future agenda because that answers my question. I was so thrilled to see that we did that district-wide. So thank you for your leadership and your team for doing that and supporting our kids' focus on the material and not the devices. And then another question I did have was, excuse me, policy EGAEA.
Say that again, please.
EGAEA. I can pull up the photo just so I can tell you. Let's see here. Electronic communication. So I had very briefly given you some feedback that teachers had told me that second day of school visits, where they were concerned about the 60-day retention of emails because they felt like they were really concerned if they had to pull up old emails from students and whatnot, and it wasn't long enough. So
Yeah, thank you. And actually, we meant to pull that off of this one because we talked about it again in cabinet, and we want to relook at the time period. So Zach, do you want to talk about that just a little bit, kind of what we're doing around it?
Yeah, so after several conversations and some input from a lot of people, we started bringing that up at cabinet and are going to start drafting a new policy. There's still a couple of questions we're looking at in terms of how the system works and some different options we have there. So that's something that's on my to-do list right now and should be coming relatively soon, hopefully.
well, good. Just on behalf of the staff, I just appreciate you revisiting that because you'd never know which emails you have to save at the time. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you. All right, that takes us into presentations. So report of 2025 CMAS results and district and school performance framework results. Superintendent Haber.
Again, we're excited about our results, but we're also, as I showed you with the root cause analysis diagram and all the principals really spending good time together. We got good feedback from principals that they appreciated that we allotted time, a lot of time for them to sit down with the support from Learning Services to really dig into their performance frameworks. And so I'm excited for Dr. Field and Jillian Patterson to share more about our CMAS results and our district performance frameworks.
Yes, and Dr. Field's here for support, and since we partner every day, she came to sit by me. So here we go. Oh, I have to push the button. first job, button pushing. What we always want to think about is that in District 20, about 4 years ago, we created our balanced assessment system so that we're looking at the different types of assessments that we're using in the district. Tonight, when we're looking at CMAS and our PSAT, SAT, these are summative, one time a year assessments. And so that we just keep that at the front of our thinking. CMAS is given in the state of Colorado. It is aligned to the Colorado academic standards, and it serves very much as a roadmap to ensure that students are prepared for college, career, and life. These tests are given at the end of the year, and we always want to think about this as one, I always say, body of evidence or one indicator that can be used to tell us how our students are doing. And that's why we have, you've heard us talk about MAP growth before, which is our benchmark assessment that we do 2 to 3 times a year, which helps us determine how we might perform on CMAS. So the CMAS assessments, this is just an overview. Since 2023, the assessments and the grade levels they're given to have not changed. So as a reminder, it is given to our students. CMAS is for grades 3 through 8. That would include English language arts and math. Science is given to grades 5, 8, and 11. And then at the 9th and 10th grade, our students participate in PSAT, and at the 11th grade, they take the SAT assessment through the state of Colorado. These assessments, we get 2 different types of scores. So tonight, when we look at scores here in a minute, you will see the first scores that we receive from the state are performance ratings, and there's 5 ratings from exceeds to did not meet. Often we see these performance ratings in the newspaper and in the press because they talk about kids that meet and exceed. And so we're looking at those categories. For accountability, the state of Colorado uses yet a different set of cut points and expectations. And so that's why you'll see the different colors and shading and why those are used differently. So the second half of my presentation tonight looks at our district performance framework, and that's where all those accountability scores come from as well. So CMAS, just a quick overview of participation rates. Also on the front of, so the district performance framework is known as a DPF. So to save us a lot of letters tonight, we're going to go with DPF on that. The DPF has the participation rates on the front of it, so we'll look at that in just a few minutes, but I wanted to give you the overall participation rates. You'll notice there's 2 categories. There's a category of total participation, and then to the right of that is accountability participation. So in the state of Colorado, our parents have the right to opt their students out of assessments, so that out of the state assessment. So the accountability participation rate takes into consideration parents who may have opted their students out. And then the federal number, because the federal government says that we don't have that option, is the total participation rate. So you'll see that for English language arts, 88.9% of students participated, and for math, 89.1% across the district and across all those assessments. So first, and we're going to look at, I was going to apologize, it's little, but I don't know how else to fix that. So I do apologize, but it is what it is. English language arts and math results. So this is for grades 3 through 5. So you'll see 3 big categories up here. The first, the section that has more white coloring in it, is meets and exceeds. You will see going down the left-hand side, the grade level and the content area. Going across below the black bar are the years that are represented. So we see 2019, and then remember we had the pandemic, so we were on hold. And then we have 21, 22, going across to this year's current scores. This year's current scores are highlighted in blue for Academy District 20, and then orange indicates the state of Colorado. So that first section is meets and exceeds. The second section is an average scale score. So that looks at our achievement scores. It looks at every student that was in that classroom that day that took the assessment. The third box looks at our student growth percentile or median growth percentile. So that looks at how did students perform over time. So it's looking at the exact same students from one year to the next. So then I put together an overview for us on this. So for the meets and exceeds, we outperformed the state in English language arts and math. For our achievement scale scores, so that's an average score, we outperformed the state in English language arts and math. And then an area of focus that we've been having a lot of conversations around for, because with learning services, the root causes, all the work we've been doing with schools and principals as well, is that we know we want to focus on English language arts and math in 5th grade, because we did see a decrease in scores. And so that's an area that we're definitely watching and looking at more closely. Then moving to, this is the same type of chart, except for this is grades 6 through 8. So again, we have meets and exceeds, we have the average scale scores, and we have the median growth percentile. And I did another overview for you. So under the category of meets and exceeds, we again outperformed the state. Did I go backwards? Oh, it does say, huh.
Go the other way. There you go.
How, oh, there's a red button.
Teamwork.
It's like, how did I do that? Phew, for a minute, thought I had it. Okay, it looked vaguely familiar, but you know. Okay, so now we're gonna look at. It's a long day. It's a long week. Overview for grades 6 through 8, meets and exceeds. We outperformed the state in English language arts and math. For our achievement scale scores, we outperformed the state in English language arts and math. Our growth in 8th grade ELA moved from a 49 of approaching to meets. That's an important, when you look like even from a distance at these color sheets, yellow would be approaching. And so we want to see ourselves move out of a category and move higher. So that's why that's a highlight. And then an area of focus for us would be in achievement. So remember, that's how the kids performed that day in that class. We would look at math for grades 6 and 7. So then at high school, we take the PSAT and SAT, which is the Colorado State Assessment. It's the assessment the state is using. So again, we have similar results, except for this, they don't provide us the meets and exceeds piece. We look at the accountability ratings. So that's where you see the color coding change a little bit. At the top going across, it's set up very much like the previous ones, except for at the top you have the average scale score for achievement. In SAT, they call it evidence-based reading and writing, EBRW, or English language arts. So at the top you have that achievement, and then at the bottom you have growth. And then I'm going to let you take a look at math. So the same setup, grade levels on the left, years of performance going across, how we performed compared to the state of Colorado. And then the highlights. So PSAT, SAT growth and achievement scores exceeded or met the state in all grade level assessments. Grade 11 math for the SAT average scale score was a 525, up from a 518 in 2024. This is a particular indicator that you'll see represented tonight in the strategic plan as well, because we're looking at that graduation requirement. And originally the state had set that at a 50, and for the last 2 years, they're dropping it to a 480. But what did I say?
Say 50.
To a 50?
No,
Sorry.
500.
500. The state said 500 for graduation requirements. For the last 2 years, they've dropped it to 480, but we have kept our bar at 500. So when we look at this average of 525 and we see improvement, that's what we're working on, especially when you hear us talking about how much work we've done in the last few years around math specifically. We would hope to see our scores go up. Thanks. I'm like, woo. Areas of focus, grade 10. Growth in math, because we were at a 49 in approaching. So when we talked about changing those color bands, we would much rather sit at that 50 range or above. And so that's an area that we're going to focus on. And then I do want to note that our participation in science at grade 11 is considerably lower than it is for PSAT, SAT. And there's a lot of reasons why that happens, but it's just something to note. So then this next slide looks at our science results. And so science, because this is so, I'm going to skip to the the highlights. This is the second year that we have, or the third year, sorry, that we have tested with 2020 standards. So the state had redone standards. Last year was the first time we saw it show up on frameworks. So this year we have some comparable data, which is what's demonstrated in those graphs. All of our grade levels are meeting for accountability. All of our grade levels performed well above the state. And then our participation rates, as I noted in the last section, are lower at high school for this. So new this year, the state of Colorado provided parents, which was exciting. So we got our results. We start to get achievement. We don't get growth until later in July. And so my goal is to get that in the hands of our administrators and our teachers as fast as possible through our district data lab or Tableau, our visualizations that I've shared with you in the past. But this year, the state, typically what would happen is they mail me a ton of boxes because every kid gets a paper report, and we sort those and we slice them and we dice them. And then once school starts, we figure out how to get them to the schools, and the schools figure out how to get them to the kids. Well, the super great news is on June 10th this year, the CDE released a parent portal. So parents were able to go in and immediately access scores. Now that's for 3rd through 8th grade and 11th grade science. College Board typically has the students. So College Board is the vendor for PSAT, SAT. Typically within about 2 weeks, students can access that. They don't always tell their parents, but they can access their score. And so I always tell parents to look for that about 2 weeks after the assessment. So it was super exciting that the state has made that improvement and families were able to access those reports much faster. Plus it saved my team a lot of, and our schools, a lot of paperwork. And it's worked out super great as far as we've had a lot of success with it. So that's good. And then as I shared, the PSAT, SAT results are in College Board, and students have an account where they can go in and access that information. And then I did provide through links in here additional resources. CD's done a great job of giving information for parents or people like yourselves, whoever wants to learn more or know more about it. I just put that link of that information in there. And then what's important is, as a learning services team, how are we supporting this work and where do these scores go? So part of the process, once we get our DPF, our district performance framework, we really start working with the schools and the district to develop a unified improvement plan. So we're working on that right now. And then we have our support to schools team that's constantly providing professional learning. We talked about examples tonight with the root causes work. That's that team going in and doing work at the administration level, as well as going in and helping teachers in schools. And we do customized support as well. And then we keep our focus the whole time on our professional learning communities. Tonight's really is about that results orientation. What are the results from our assessments? And then how does it build into our collaborative culture, our focus on learning, and then the results piece. And so we are continuing to support our schools with data analysis, and then they'll be building common formative assessments at the schools as well, where they can look at local data weekly rather than just this once a year summative assessment. And then again, just CDE has loaded since the embargoes have been lifted with all this information. You could go look at school performance frameworks or information on the CDE site for all of the schools across the state too, if anybody wants to do an additional data dive. Does anybody have a question at this point before we go to my next presentation?
A couple of questions, yes.
Sure.
Director Yanez.
I think I put this in an email at some point, but is there a way for ELA specifically to disaggregate the data with that reading comprehension component and then the writing score? That would be something I would, because I know, I don't know that we've ever done that, or has anyone ever done that?
So we're deciding whose turn it is. What's hard about CMAS is that so literacy is combined, and was it Andy? Somebody did a really good speech today on this, learning services, where that they're combined within the assessment. So we don't get clear scores that would there's areas that we can look at, and we can look at items and how they were phrased, but not clear, like this is specific to writing and this is specific to reading. Does that make sense? The other challenge we're going to have in the future is the state of Colorado just passed an accountability law that says nothing can be paper-based. So for PSAT, there can be in rare occasions for accommodations, but in the essay portion of the SAT is being dropped from the Colorado state assessments as well. So that's an interesting Not to say we are not focusing on writing as a district, and Andy probably is.
Yeah.
Share? No.
Sure. Yes. So when we were discussing your question, it came up that we do with our schools and teachers an item analysis. And in that item analysis, we can pull out a little bit how students have done specifically on the writing tasks. Interestingly, they're often writing about what they have read. So they're really hard to pull apart because there's some reading comprehension that happens that they're applying within their writing. So it is tricky, but again, yep, just something that we continue to look at through our day-to-day practices with students.
I absolutely know that also grading writing, as I did that many times, it's so subjective. And so even to like, when we would walk through prompts with 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, right? Like this is a 3 and this is a 2 and this is a 1 and this is a 0 and all of that. I think what I'm hearing you say is that the state needs to do a better job of creating an assessment where we could actually get some better data. And I'm not saying I have the answers, but I'm just saying, especially with the focus that we have with Results 2.0, assessing writing is hard, period. But also if we're spending the time doing this and we get all of this data, it would be really nice to have an assessment that actually you could parse some of that out. That's all. I don't know how to solve that problem, but it is one that I think we need to solve.
Back in the day,
Yeah.
it was a separate assessment. Actually, back in my 4th grade teaching year.
No, I know. Yeah, back, it used to be that 3rd grade was its own assessment and it was assessed in February or March. It was way earlier. It was all because of the, they call it the READ Act now, but it was, what was it called back then?
Oh, gosh.
No, well, that was CSAP, but there was the READ Act is a second version of the original law that came out in the late 90s in the state. And we used to do 3rd grade separately in a completely different window, and the test was very different, and it was all comprehension. And then there was a writing prompt.
All right, there you go. Director Payne.
Thank you for all that. I do have a question. Dr. Field, where do we rank? I mean, since all our comparisons are the average of the state of Colorado and where we compare there, where does the state rank nationally when it comes to K through 12 and their ranking on K through 12 education? Is that,
I'm like nationally, we might need to look into that.
Gives us context.
So when we get to the DPF in a minute, in your little handy dandy packet I gave you, I went through because that's our rating of everything that we do, whether it's elementary, middle, high, and post-secondary. I did give you a cheat sheet that we can look at in a minute with the DPF that shows where we ranked, because we know we're accredited with distinction, and there were 17 school districts, and then we were I wrote it on that slide, but I'm not that. I want to say it was 8 or 9. I just can't remember if it was 8 or 9.
No, and that's it. If that's coming, I was just wondering.
9.
I love all the data. So
okay,
thank you.
We were 9 out of 17 and out of 182 school districts in the state of Colorado. So,
but I also want to say that it's easier for a much smaller school district to get accredited with distinction because of their N sizes, and so. Jolene and I believe we are the largest and have been the largest, highest performing school district in the state for years.
Again, good context
to
it all. So my question for you real fast is in that post analysis of everything, how are we using that data to pull out a Schmoker value, if you will, to audit our curriculum for simplicity and depth, to say this is what is not serving us well, or this is what's serving us well according to these test scores?
So I would say today we did middle school principals and we did root cause analysis with them. And I was sitting with one of our middle school principals who is doing exactly that, looking at the 6th grade resource that they use, or an IB school, and just really identifying those priority standards with the Colorado academic standards to ensure that what teachers are using to teach with actually they're teaching priority standards. I would also say that we as a district want to do some work around math with our priority standards, especially at the high school level. We feel like there's a big need there, especially by course, like Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. It's work that needs to be done, and I think over the next probably 3 to 4 months, we'll have a plan on what that's going to look like.
No, that's great. I didn't know when to bring up Algebra 1, if that's a later thing or not,
You can
but
bring up Algebra 1.
yeah, just that topic right there. And
Guys,
yeah. And again, is that we talked a lot about the feeder schools or that whole progression.
Yes.
And are we failing ourselves in that progression type thing? And are we looking at that? And
Yes, and we'll start with elementary.
yeah,
I think we might have shared that with you all in the spring, that we plan to, at least by feeder systems, get everybody in the same math curriculum or math resource. And it also really supports professional learning in a great way, because they're expensive. If you're a one school that has one resource, when there's multiple schools, many people can benefit from professional learning.
100%. Director Yanez.
I remember when I was teaching 6th grade English that 6th grade math teachers were meeting with 5th grade teachers to talk about math placement. And I think I've said this before, I kind of knocked on some doors and said, what about ELA? Should we be having some of these conversations with 5th grade teachers? And at the time that wasn't happening. And I don't know if that's happening now, but I would certainly advocate for that to happen as well, just for those core and tested subjects, so that we can be thoughtful about that placement and continue to grow kids.
100% agree. Those transition grades, 6 and 9, and 6th grade's a focus area for us. 9th and 10th grade math is a focus area for us. So I think that we would benefit from being more intentional about articulation between 5th and 6th, and then 8th and 9th.
Thank you so much for that. That was an ad lib conversation right there. Director Payne.
I just want to add on to that because Dr. Field, you mentioned something about the larger size district, and having worked at a district with only one high school, there is a big difference. Can you explain that just for anybody listening at home? Because I think it is so important to understand how hard it is for a district this size with this many high schools to understand how that achievement occurred.
I think it speaks to how we've been able to align, even in a previously more site-based district, how we've been able to align what we're working toward, what our goals are, and what we're focused on. I've sat here for 10 years doing similar reports, so I think that's our ticket. I think when you think about moving numbers, so when you think about being a large school district, to make a change, we have to move a lot of kids to make a change, right? Where a small school district, you might be able to move a couple kids higher or move a couple kids to get a different rating. But for us, they're much bigger buckets of students. So we need to move a lot more students forward. And I don't know if someone else thinks they can be more eloquent than me at this point.
With the points?
No. Right.
So to move up 1%, that's
Yeah. Okay. So yes, yep. Right. Because you're moving.
No, thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Dr. Field, do you have something you wanted to add to that?
No, I'm just thinking to myself.
Okay.
These are good questions.
I
We're
am.
just like, okay, give me a minute here.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have questions or comments on this section? Okay. I'll wait for Mr. Wilbur. No. Okay. All yours, Julian.
All right. So in your handy dandy handouts, I just want you to know what you have on the podium. So the first one is an annotated version. It's very complicated. So later, if you want to know more about the district performance framework, you're like, what did Jolyn say about that? This is a reference for you that just points out the different components. I'm going to walk us through some of it tonight, so I think you'll have a better understanding, but I just wanted you to have that piece. The second document is the district performance framework. So you've seen screenshots and you may have had the copy, but I wanted you to have your own handy dandy copy because I carry it wherever I go now. That's why I have a cart instead of a bag at this point in my life. The next one has a lot of green, a few yellows and reds. This is how our schools in the district performed over time So the district gets a performance framework, and then each of our schools. They're done differently. So during my presentation, I'll share some of the differences for you, but I just want you to know that this is over time. So the far right column is 2025, and then the change from 24 to 25, if we saw an increase in the framework or a reduction, okay? And then the second 2 pages in here are the lower. So when we look at the framework in a minute, we'll see where the big bucket categories are. So the other 2 pages with that document really focus on the big buckets. The last the last one we're going to save for the strategic plan presentation. Don't worry, I'm not done for tonight. I got a third group for you. So the strategic plan piece will come after this. This one I put together today for you, or yesterday, thinking about some of your questions around where did we perform compared to other people. So if you start on the side with the header that says we are credited with distinction, that is, I get a giant spreadsheet from the state, so I just did a screenshot for you of where we performed compared to all the school districts that were accredited with distinction. So there were 17 of those, and we just shared a minute ago that we were number 9. The 2 bottom color-coded boxes look at accreditation ratings across districts is on the left. Schools are on the right. So when we look at our schools that are green on that previous handout, they're on a performance plan, and that shows you the data across the state of Colorado. So when you think about how do we compare to other people, and then on the left-hand side is about the state for accreditation or being accredited. And that's where we've been accredited for 17 years, but don't get confused, that's 17 schools on there because it's the same number twice, right? And then the back side, I just went through and did more of Jolene's list of who I thought would be interesting. So of school districts that are close to us, that surround us, and then some bigger districts in the state of Colorado, like Boulder Valley. We know Cheyenne Mountain is always accredited with distinction as well. They're a much smaller school district. So size, like there are comparisons, but I also wanted you to see where did District 49 and where did District 11 and some of the larger school districts around us so that you can see comparison. And I have more data if we need it, just don't have it all with me tonight. All right, are we ready now?
That's really helpful.
Okay, good.
Really, I love that.
No.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
I know, you're like, great.
No, no, it's all right. I learn something new every day in this job, so as long as I can just try to stay in front of it. All right, so the purpose of the school performance really tells us how we're comparing in the state, and it gives school communities and the community information on how districts are performing. It also allows the state of Colorado to, on occasion, direct funding when we think about funding that's available at the state level, where you direct resources to areas of need. So when I talked about district plans versus school plans, so districts are either accredited with distinction, accredited, improvement, priority improvement, or turnaround. So those are the categories that are used for school districts and the percentages. So the 74, when we talked about the schools that we gave certificates to this last week, that's what we're using as a criteria, because that's where we're trying to get to as a school district as well. So schools, on the other hand, are graded on a very different scale. So they are either performance or improvement, priority improvement, or turnaround. So performance is that 53 to 100. In all of our schools, we do have 2 schools this year on an improvement plan. So we've been working and talking about that and how we will support them. And we do not have any schools on priority improvement or turnaround.
In priority improvement, the state gets involved.
We don't want that. Right. This is just a little bit more information about what each of those ratings and plans. So when you can't sleep, you can come back and read some more information. I just want you to have those details and that information. So the next piece is when you ask me, what's it take? Like I think of Mrs. Payne when you said, what's it take to move a large school district? On the back of your handy dandy school performance framework are the cut points. So all of the different, every content area, every grade level, everything has a different cut point on this. So it gets very sophisticated and very mathematical. But I just want you to know that's where all these cut points come from in the scoring. So some of the processes we do is we look at how close are we to that cut point? What would it take to boost us a little bit more? Because we're always trying to get better as an area of focus. So then when we start to look at the frameworks, there are 3 big buckets. The third bucket only shows up on high school. So we have academic achievement. We talked about when we looked at our CMAS scores, how did kids score on that test, on that day, in that classroom? And then academic growth, how did those kids perform over time? And then when we look at post-secondary workforce readiness, which people say PWR a lot, so you might hear the acronym, it looks at those graduation rates, the dropout rates, matriculation, which gets very complicated, but it really looks at what kids are doing after they leave high school. And then the SAT and for English language arts and math sit in that third bucket. So when we start to look at these buckets, the top indicator here, I don't like it when I can't see what's happening behind me, but I'm gonna trust you all are still smiling. The academic achievement at the elementary level is 40% of the score. The other percentage is 60%. So the state is looking at growth more heavily than achievement. And when we get to the insides, I always call it the guts of the DPF, this will make more sense too. For our high schools, 30% is achievement, 40% is growth, and 30% is post-secondary workforce readiness. On the front of your handy dandy DPF, on the bottom section, the very last section, is where it shows the total scores across each area. So for elementary, you'll see academic achievement, academic growth, same thing for middle school. High school has that third bucket. On the bottom right-hand corner, you will see that overall our elementaries were accredited and our middle schools and high schools had a distinction. So we know that there's some things we may want to look at our elementaries. They are still doing great. Like, we are not in a bad place, but there's always areas to improve and do better. What's Jeremy's? You know better, do better. What was Jeremy's quote the other day? Sorry, it was good. With Mrs. Shea, it was like, what was it? If we know better or get better, be better.
Getting better. I was actually made that note. It was getting better
I know.
to get better. Getting better.
It's a really
better,
good quote.
Better. Something like that. It was really good.
Sorry, it was a good, I was like, yes, cheerleader moment.
It was the attitude of knowing, how to continually improve yourself.
That we are doing a lot of things really well, but how can we continue to improve? 100%. So as Ginger shared, we have been accredited with distinction for 17 years. So we are super excited about that. And our total score went up this year. So that is helpful as well. So then remember, each school got their frameworks that look just a little bit different. So you'll see that they have a performance rating, and then they will have the 2 or the 3 big buckets: academic achievement, academic growth, and then if it's a high school, they'll have PWR on the front of that and their rating. So now we've looked so this is the front, the very first page of the DPF that you're holding in your hands. It has our total score. The right-hand side that looks kind of like a thermometer are the percentages for scoring. So it's just the indicators so that we would know where we would need to score for each rating and plan. So on the front of the DPF, you can see that in academic achievement as a whole district, we are meeting. In academic growth, we are meeting. And in post-secondary for workforce readiness, we are meeting. About halfway down the page, you see those participation rates that I shared with you earlier, just giving you a little lay of the land. Then we're going to turn the page and we're going to look at elementary. So in the top right corner in very light gray letters is always the grade level you're looking at. So if you get a little lost and you're like, what grade am I on? So when we're looking at this, we are looking at elementary. The top half of the page is focused on academic achievement. It's broken into English language arts, math, and science performance by all students, and then our subgroups. And then at the bottom of the page is academic growth for English language arts and math. So remember, for growth, this would represent our 4th and 5th graders because they would have had to have taken the assessment as a 3rd grader and moved to 4th grade. And then our 5th graders would have had to have been a 4th grader and then moved to 5th grade as well. So one of the things I want you to take a look at is during academic achievement, one area, so we would be looking at yellows and reds are more concerning. And so looking at English language arts and our students with disabilities for achievement, how kids are performing that day is an area we would want to look at. One thing I want us to look at though is at the bottom of the page, when we look at that same subgroup of students with disabilities in the area of growth, we are now approaching, which means we're moving those kids further because we've got to catch them up more than a year's worth of growth, right? If we keep them at the same, they're never going to get there. So we need to grow them. And so the good news story there is where we're growing those students with disabilities and knowing that we can continue to additionally support them, but we see some positive stories. Another positive here is our English language proficiency. So you'll see this on each page as well for elementary and middle and high school. For our students on track to be proficient in the English language, they are exceeding. So that's another high point. So I'm going to move us because we could spend days doing this, but we're going to keep moving. We're going to look at middle school. And so middle school is set up the exact same way. You will have achievement at the top, academic growth at the bottom. I think the change here is you'll see that under English language proficiency, we have two areas of exceeding where students are getting proficient and also on track to proficiency. And then we do have a couple other areas with students with disabilities that we will continue to look at. But once again, we see that growth being a great indicator that we're moving students forward. And then we have high school. So high school is broken into two sections. You have on the kind of, if you held them both open on the right or the left-hand side, you would have our 9th and 10th grade scores for PSAT. So again, reading, math, and science, and then reading and math. The second page of high school then is that post-secondary workforce readiness. Remember, we talked about that that's a third bucket for our high schools. So they keep SAT on that side because that's all of our 11th grade students taking that assessment. And then we look at our dropout rates, our matriculation rates, and our graduation rate. I will tell you our matriculation, that is a huge data set, and Miss Tate and her team work on that for us every spring. And so I know that's a painstaking, we're grateful for the work that they do to help us track our students and learn what they're doing after they move on from graduation. And then you can see that our graduation rate is at a level of exceeds. So one other just point of interest, if on the right-hand side, you see the color bands, right? You see exceeds or meets or whatever we're at. Just one section to the left of that, you can see the points earned. So each one of these categories, when we looked at that sheet of all the cut points, are represented by these tiny numbers here. So when we look at reading and writing going across the top, we see that there's 4 points possible. We exceeded in that SAT category, so we earned 4 points. But then going down, you can see the subgroups then have a potential of earning 1 point, or the dropout rate is worth 8 points and the graduation rate is worth 8 points. So it's a whole mathematical equation when you start looking deeper. To go to Mrs. Payne's question again about how you, right? Like there's just a lot that goes into it. And so let's see, what else was I going to share with you?
Share that at all?
No, because
Okay.
it's represented up above, but we could if.
Bad.
No. So looking ahead, what do we do with this information as we've continued to share that we are looking for areas of strength and growth that we can work on, especially targeting our subgroups. We do have visualizations that help us get to the teacher level. So we're able to see more about our schools and our teachers thanks to Zach and his team and IT. That's a huge partnership between assessment and all of the departments working to get those visualizations to help our staff get even more granular in the data. It's a continued collaboration with our schools, our teachers, the learning services team, and our instructional leadership model. And then this is part of our continuous improvement process or model for the state of Colorado, also for our district. So that unified improvement plan piece is a piece that I'm leading right now with our schools. And so every other year, schools submit a unified improvement plan. So we're in the process of developing those based on the data that was represented in their frameworks. I think that's it.
Mrs. Patterson, not a question, but you kind of breezed over saying that we did increase our percentage on the district framework, but I think it was 3 percentage points, right? Wasn't it
It was
74
7
something
yes.
last year? So I mean,
Like,
3
hold on.
percentage points.
Everybody thinks I can memorize. We went from a 77, so it's 77 to a 77.4.
Oh, really? I thought it was 74 last year for some reason.
No, 74 is
That
what
was
we're trying
2
to
years
make.
ago. Okay.
So yes, so on your handy,
Yeah.
this one, it shows the overtime.
Okay. I
But-
knew
But that's
it'd
okay.
be
We
in
still
there,
went
but
up, so that's good news.
but anyway, phenomenal.
Okay, we'll go
because
back to that.
26,000 students.
77.4.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Director Yanez.
Amazing. Data is exciting, especially when it looks like this. Obviously, areas that that we're watching and acting. At the building level, this is a question I get asked a lot. Okay, so you get all this data, and here we're analyzing it here at the district. And then when and where do those conversations happen at building levels? And then is the PLC process part of that? So essentially, one of the questions we get asked a lot is, in retrospect, how do you use your CMAS data to affect your teaching?
Current.
Yeah, so I have a great example. Last Friday was our first late start on the 5th, I think it was Friday the 5th of September. And I was up at Discovery Canyon High School. It was during their PLC time, and I was with the entire math department. So probably 8 to 10 math teachers that teach everything from Algebra 1 up into calculus. And actually the principal was there as well, and one of their deans, and they were doing a deep dive on their PSAT data specifically because they were interested in their 9th grade data. They had really high achievement, but their growth was not great. And so they were engaging in a root cause analysis around why they felt that their achievement was high and their growth was low. And so these kinds of conversations lead to, are we teaching priority standards? Are we using best instructional practices? Is there enough rigor in our classes? You know, because they come out of the middle school, out of DCC middle school, very high performing. And so that's the kind of work we do. And they do that on late starts. They do that during the week when their teams meet. But I would say primarily it's done during PLC late starts. I know there was conversation when I was with the math teachers at Discovery Canyon last Friday about wanting to get together with the 8th grade team as well to do some vertical articulation, which would really help them. And I think even just watching each other teach would be very beneficial.
And one other piece I would add is when we think about that balanced assessment system that I started with, we just finished our map growth window. So just today, IT is working on getting that uploaded. So then that's what we use to help us monitor how are kids doing now that are sitting, because we have new students that, didn't take the assessment last spring. So how do we continue to have data and information in front of us? And then that's where the common formative assessments, when our schools are building, and they're looking at data constantly too.
I have one other question that you reminded me of.
Oh,
Sorry. A couple years ago, I don't remember how many years it's been. Oh my gosh, it's probably been 5 years. I don't even know. It feels like yesterday. But we adopted an map growth.
Mhm.
And at that time, the vendor said, oh, was it 5 years ago?
Mhm.
Time flies. Okay, now at this point, the progress monitoring tool that
yes,
was
it was very sad.
originally correct.
Yes.
Was originally part of the package.
Yep.
Was no longer. They were no longer.
They were
offering
sunsetting
it. It was sunsetting.
Yes, it was traumatic.
It was. Are there any conversations around that assessment in particular? Keeping it? I mean, I would assume that.
So map growth right now is our benchmarking tool, but last year we added IXL. So from the strategic plan, there was a request to go out and look for a progress monitoring tool specifically for math. And so IXL is a progress monitoring tool, but it has a lot of other components to it. So this is we're just going into our 2nd year. We were able to purchase for ELA and math, kindergarten through 10th grade the first year, but because our teachers asked for more, this year we added 11th grade. grade. And then we do have some seniors, like seniors that are on an IEP, seniors that are on an English language learner plan. Like, so we have some exceptions to that as well, so that we're monitoring those 12th grade students in certain areas. So we now have that tool K11 that will serve as a diagnostic as well as a progress monitoring tool. And then it has a lot of capabilities to build common formative assessments that already have question banks in there based on the Colorado academic standards. It aligns to the CMAS test, PSAT, SAT, and then I have yet to hear from a school. Now tomorrow I will, because I just said that out loud, but it has a curriculum component as well that they can tie to the curriculum that they're using to teach those standards. And so they have different ways to utilize that. So I think there's great potential in IXL. My team is getting more and more sophisticated at going out and helping our schools, and as we continue to partner with the vendor. So
Thank you.
Just one last thought, and it just from sitting here looking at the Christmas tree, yeah,
I'm with you.
if you will. I just feel like there's some element of sustainability or lack thereof in it. I mean, if you look at some of these, my favorite school to talk about last year was Antelope Trails, right? And the ups and downs. And if you go back all the way from 2016, I mean, you just see that, like, we have large growth, and then we have, I mean, it's like me dancing, two steps forward, one step back, or whatever. And so maybe that's something that we need to look at too, is how to, we're figuring out how to make improvements. Maybe the next thing to try to figure out is how do we sustain those improvements? So there's not this, and I know there's a lot of factors that go into stuff, if teachers leave or whatever, like there's so many variables, but maybe that's something that we can drive to look at too, is how do we sustain our improvements?
Absolutely.
Yep.
And one thing to think about is when you look at the guts inside here at the district, we have enough kids that fit in all these categories. But sometimes there's N sizes, they call it. So they either have to be 20 for growth or 16 for achievement. And if we don't have enough of those, like if a school did not have, and that happens quite often because our elementaries are not as large, so then they'll lose some of the populations. So the important part, I agree with you 100%. And I can tell you, Jeremy's been running data to, keep us going all day long. But thinking about too, looking at the inside of each schools from last year to this year and what's changed and what's been added that have affected it. So looking more deeply. Yep.
Right.
That's why root cause analysis is so important.
Yeah, no, that is just an incredible tool to be using. So very good. Okay. I think you can get up.
I can, but
I'm staying. But
Susan's staying. I'll be back again I'm the clerk for the strategic plan.
Got it. Okay, so that brings us to our next, right? Our end of year strategic plan update.
right. And people might be like, why are you doing an end of year from last school year in October? But that's because of our data and when we get all of our data. And so it trickles in the summer, and we just wanted to give you a comprehensive look at our strategic goals and instead of kind of piecemealing it. So Jolynn also provided you a handout. She created this fabulous tool. I'm going to share it with Dak next week too, because I think it'll be a lot easier to read and understand, but it has all of our 6 priority areas and then the goals in each of them by year. So you can see we started measuring all these in 24, we just did 25, and then we have blank columns for 26 and 27. So hopefully our stakeholders will find this much easier to follow along with. So just to remind you, this is the fabulous strategic plan team, and all of them are here this evening to answer any questions you have. Our mission, you all know our mission, and our vision, which is tied to our ends. And then these are the 6 strategic priorities, and we will be speaking to them this evening and how we did on our goals at the end of this last school year. So that would have been the end of the 25 school year. I will say that I think we set really high goals for ourselves. We do. We have high expectations. And I think Jolyn hinted at one of them when we were talking about the math SAT score. So in the state of Colorado, they require a 470 on ELA and a 500 on SAT for a student to graduate from a Colorado high school. And the 500 that's the math score. They lowered it to 480 just because of some changes in the online SAT test, but we kept our goal at 500. So, and we have a lot of kids, if they're not at 500, are very close. But we're going to start off with Andy, and she's going to talk about third grade reading.
All right, so love to kick this off with third grade reading, of course. We have the goal of 75% of third grade students will achieve on or above grade level benchmark status on the DIBELS 8 assessment, and that refers to their composite score. We did hit our mark. We actually hit 77% on or above, so it feels very good. And I just can't leave before saying that we also are tenacious about the other percent that aren't quite there. And a fun fact for you, you know, a few years ago, we started tracking very specifically certain cohorts of students. Our third graders in 22-23, we had 220 that started the year well below. Tracking that group of students, I just wanted to share that we are at 12 left. They've moved on to 6th grade, and we are tenaciously following those students and supporting them. So it feels good to know these kids by name and need and continue to support them. We're also partnering very intently, and I would say intentionally, with our special education team, so literacy and special education. We've talked before about the hardest students to move to grade level are students who have learning challenges. So we are teaming up this year and really visiting resource classrooms and looking very closely at literacy instruction in our resource programs so that we can learn what it is we can do to support our teachers with resources and training so that we make sure that all of our kids, 100%, are able to read and comprehend.
I appreciate the update on that group. I really do. I love hearing
Yeah.
that. So thank you.
Any questions for?
You want to do, did you do any of these?
No, that's it. That's all I got for you tonight.
She has the next show.
No,
She did.
my teammate Carrie will speak to you next. One last thing, I'm so sorry. Sorry, Carrie. I wanted to let Director Yanez know and the board know that we are actually, when you talked earlier about vertical articulation for writing, we've actually worked with 2 of our high school strands to do that very work with elementary to middle and then middle to high. So.
No, Andy, I mean these.
Wonderful. Thank you. It's great.
Yep. Okay.
I thought she was doing math. Sorry.
Great.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to take the next couple of slides. Much of this data you've already heard about tonight, but we are going to talk specifically how it relates to the strategic plan.
And this is Carrie Evans. She's our new director for curriculum and instruction.
Thank you, Susan.
Welcome. Next slide. Or this one is
Yep. This is at 1.2. So for this goal was again around third graders, but this time around CMAS and their English language arts. The goal is that 57% of our third graders would meet or exceed, and we met that goal with 58%. I would also like to add that we have consistently increased that score for the last 3 years. 3 years ago was at 50, then 54, and now 58. So we've seen some good progress and sustainability there. Goal 1.3 is around still CMAS. This is ELA for growth. And the goal was 55 for a growth percentile. We did not meet this goal. Our current growth percentile is sitting at a 52. Our 4th grade growth was 55 and our 5th grade growth was 47. So that is an area that we have targeted for those root cause analyses that we've been talking about tonight. 1.4, we are shifting to secondary students. The goal is that 90% of our 6th and 9th graders will successfully pass their ELA course. And for both grade levels, we did meet that goal. You can see where we are at 91.85 for 6th grade and then 93.70 for 9th grade.
You do math.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
doing math as well.
Okay, let's go.
I'm going. So,
Hey.
1.5. Now we're shifting back into
I agree with you. Ms. Dr.
SAT. So this goal was that 58% of our 11th grade students would hit that 500 score on SAT. We did not meet this goal. We are sitting at 55.55%. But as Dr. Field mentioned, we kept that aggressive goal at 500, even though the state reduced the graduation requirement. We had 74.3% of our students hit the 480 score. So quite a few students are very close to that 500 mark. All right, slide one or goal 1.6. This one is still back to 6th and 9th grade students, this time around math courses. The goal is that 90% of them would pass their math courses, and we did meet this goal for both grade levels at 90.96 for 6th grade and then 92.12 for 9th grade. 1.7 is around Algebra 1, and the goal is that 90% of our 9th grade students would pass Algebra 1. We did not make this goal. We are very close at 89.24% for our 9th graders.
We're going to get it next year.
We are going to definitely get it next year. You heard it here, folks.
Mm-hmm.
And 1.8 is around students who are on track to graduate. This is one of our new goals. The goal is that 95% of our students would be on track by the end of their freshman year. We are currently in the process of collecting data specifically around the number of credits that the students are earning, and we anticipate having this information available by December of this year. However, just to think about the information that we do have, we looked at the percentage of students who passed their 3 core classes in ELA, math, and science. And we had 93.7% of our freshmen last year pass their ELA course, 92.12% passed their math course, and then 92.71% of our 9th graders passed their science course.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right, Belinda, are you coming up?
Dr. Field,
Yes.
could I kind of ask a question or just put something out to parents that I just found out about this year for the SATs? I don't know when this started, since I was in high school, but they let students take their highest score out of math and ELA now if they retake the SAT test. So like my daughter got a blah, 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 but if she wants to get try to get higher, if she gets higher in math and lower in, English, on her second SAT, they'll take the highest score of each.
That's awesome.
So, right, is this accurate? Okay, my daughter's taking it again, so
That's great.
we're hoping that's true. But I just think it's really important for parents to know, and for us to kind of push it as a district if we're trying to meet these goals, that's really exciting for students to achieve those higher scores.
So just to clarify, these scores that we gave you are from the assessment that the students took as when the
At
whole grade
school.
level took it. Yep.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead, Belinda. Oh, push the button.
Got it. Okay, for students with disabilities, something that we've started doing is tracking their ability to meet their IEP goals, their academic goals. Something to note is that our students usually have a gap of 2 years or greater, so they're working towards closing that gap. And what's really important with that is it takes a while, right? So we're looking at that approaching and meeting. So if we know that we're growing them and moving them forward, that's a good sign for our students, but we always want to eventually close that gap. But we want to make sure that our goals also match the need. So it's very important to do that so that they can do well across all of their content areas. So our goal was students with disabilities in grades 6 through 12 will demonstrate an increase from 52 to 57% on IEP goal growth, approaching, and achievement meeting their goal as measured by progress monitoring. So if you look last year, we ended at 52 and we did meet our target at 57%. And one of the things I want to thank Jolynn and her team is it's very hard to progress monitor. We establish goals for our students and then we have to find a tool. And we have to find a tool that'll give us really good detailed information as often as we progress monitor our students, and IXL has been very helpful to our case managers. And it's a tool that they can count on and they're not having to invent and make up something. So it's been it's been a positive impact for us to be able to track progress. But we did meet our goal.
Thanks, Belinda. Kendra?
Thank you. Every year we're excited about what we can do in college and career services. And so as we look at the data, students are college and career ready by the end of their 12th grade year. We continue to grow our CTE pathways. Of course, any student would come under this category if they have completed at least 2 years of a pathway. And you would actually be, as long as it's somewhere within their 4-year career in our district. With CE, our concurrent enrollment and dual enrollment, we continue to expand those opportunities for our students as we market those. We're looking to the future too. We're looking at how we can have our students, our teachers actually inside of our schools be able to be accredited to teach those courses. I think that will, in addition, add to more students involved in concurrent enrollment right there on the high school campus. Work-based learning, outstanding work-based learning coordinator that we have, and I'm excited too, as Ginger has talked about, the D20 Navigator and the opportunities to offer inside the D20 Navigator to put those internships and work opportunities there so students have easy access to them and being able to see what is readily available within basically a radius of D20, because sometimes in the past opportunities have been too far outside of our district and just not actually realistic enough for our students to be able to get to those opportunities, along with competing against all the other districts inside of our community. So the D20 Navigator, I believe, is, and I know is going to be an actual addition that's going to move those numbers even more. Industry certifications, they continue to grow. As I arrived here 4 years ago, I think we were at like 270 industry certifications, and just this past year we reported 651 industry certifications by our students. So as more and more teachers realize the opportunities that are out there for industry certifications and build those into their classroom and the curriculum, that is just a continued untapped resource that we're just going to continue to maximize. AP and IB, a growth there also. Of course, students who earned a high enough score with AP it would be 2 and with IB it would be 4 to make to actually count for the CDE's graduation requirement. That's where those numbers come from. So as you can see, we continue to grow in those areas also. Looking at the actual bottom number, the total college and prepared percentage, again, growth, that is really looking at any student who just appeared one time inside any of those 4 categories, being the work-based learning, the concurrent enrollment, CTE pathway, and industry certification. So again, what we do inside of our department, I think, is just, as my predecessor used to always say, added value, because it's just so much relevant to the industry workforce. And I think our continued growth with our industry partners too will just continue to maximize that. Last piece real quick here is the ICAP. We did not meet our goal in that. Last year was a transition from Naviance to our new D20 platform. And there's a little bit of a learning curve on that to understand it. But we've had all our counselors trained on the D20 Navigator. We've actually have our principals trained. Every person, it seems like inside our district, our goal is to have them become familiar with the D20 Navigator. And that's will help us, our students, to be able to tap inside of that and be able to move it. It's a very user-friendly platform. So we continue to see success in it as students. As Ginger talked about, we had our students inside of one of the engagement groups, and it was a really positive experience for them. So I'm really optimistic about that. I know that number's going to go up.
Thanks, Kendra. Okay,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry,
Ms.
Ms.
Khan,
Kate.
go ahead.
I understand it was a transition year for sure. And you alluded to the fact that it sounds like the counselors with the principals being kind of backing them up. Is there a set plan at every single school that the counselor meets with every single student and conducts this? How does that manifest for every student participating?
Right. That is our goal. I can't speak to each site, but in working with the counselors and talking with them, and we have a new concurrent enrollment person here who has a counseling background, Kayla Woldridge, and she has been meeting with them. She was at one site today for part of the day meeting with counselors. So that's my understanding of the goal. And I think the more comfortable people are with this platform, the more they'll be able to serve their students. I know in talking to one counselor today, the English teachers at this school, I think it's happening at every school, are meeting with this in their senior English class. The counselors are, but also then the teachers are working on those college app and how to write an essay to be prepared for the free college app piece.
Good. Yeah, and I'm sure there's a variety of places we can conduct it within a class. And so just as long as the expectation is there for every single school,
Yes.
Because frankly, my daughter's a senior and I just asked her 2 days ago and she had not been on Naviance yet.
She had not what?
Been on Naviance. I know it's not the same thing.
Oh, in the
as
past, when we had Naviance and now,
Oh.
you're talking about the D20 Navigator now?
Navigator. I'm sorry. I'm getting the
That's,
N word. The
yes.
yeah,
understand.
confused.
Right.
So yeah, she had not used Navigator at all. Again, it's a little different than her ICAP. I'm sure she's done that previously, but I just hope that every school is promoting all these tools and making sure every student is on them.
Yes, and we will continue to monitor that with our close relationship with the counseling department in each school and also our director of counseling.
Also, I would say that principals, like you said, teachers need to be helping out with this, and it's not just the counselor's job. And so I'm thrilled to hear that, and maybe that's something we do with principals to encourage like one department to help with it. The other thing that's really important, since we talked about parent right and responsibilities, is that parents need to make sure that they get their email address in the Clever, right, or within the Navigator. Can you talk about where they put that? Because if they don't include the parent email in there, the parents can't really get in there and do that alongside their child at home.
Right, exactly. And so what will happen is the student will put in their parents or the guardian, and up to 10 people actually, if you want the whole family involved. So they will get an invitation to it. And now what we're doing is as a student logs into and establishes their account, we're not telling them it's an option. They just need to put their family email in there, whoever they decide. That way that parent will get the email that will prompt them to have access to the D20 Navigator for their particular child. They'll be able to see all the favorites so that the student has checked, the assessments they've done from career, to interest inventories, etc. So that's one of the pieces that's very important also.
Maybe we need a high school competition on that.
Oh, I love that idea.
I see that coming.
Okay, I like it. Make a mental note right here. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Kendra. Okay, we're going to power through the last few here. Right, Shane?
You guys have been sitting for 2 hours.
No, it's okay. So
13 minutes.
Okay.
Dr.
So we're going to talk about the culture of connectedness. All right, go Shane.
So at the beginning, no, I'm kidding. All right. So at the beginning of tonight's meeting, you guys talked about the importance of interpersonal connections and the value in that, and that's reflected in our strategic plan. And it's connected in our academics, certainly, but also we specifically measure it here. And 3 ways we look for student connectedness and engagement is how much are you participating or connecting with school outside of the classroom. So through extracurricular activities, clubs, athletic teams, non-academic opportunities, our expectation is 85% of our kids have some sort of non-class based connection to their community, to their school community. And we were only at 80%. We had no idea what that would look like because it was the first time. So 80 is good, but we're expecting to with intentional outreach, increase that to at least 85% of our kids connecting. We look at student attendance, and since the pandemic, this has been a massive concern across the nation, low student attendance across the nation. And we're looking at 90% attendance at each educational level, elementary, middle, and high. We're almost at 93% in elementary, about 92.28 in middle school, and we're just 0.08 away from 90% in the high school. And so we had the deans doing root cause analysis on Wednesday, the secondary deans, and attendance was by and large the #1 concern, that they were doing root cause analysis to see what can we do within our schools to increase student attendance, specifically at the high school level. And then middle school is keeping the kids in the class, not asking for a 20-minute restroom pass. And then in our last area in connectedness that we're measuring is we're looking to have 80% of our 6th to 12th grade students indicate through the Hanover survey that they feel connected to the school. And 83% of our secondary kids are saying that they have a connection to the school. So it's definitely, we'd love to be at 100, but our goal is 80%, which we exceeded that.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to go to the third goal, which is, or priority, which is invest in and value our greatest asset, our staff, to help them grow. And Mr. Smart is going to.
Yeah, so you can see we have our retention staff rates pretty aggressive that we were trying to reach. This last year, we did not meet. The one we did meet, which I'll tell you is classified. when you look at historical data, we've always been about 75% of our retention for classified, and we actually, our goal was to get to 80, and we actually, actually 78, we got to 80, which was amazing, because that's, I don't think we've ever, or we haven't been there in a long time. So, but the other ones, licensed staff, staff specialists, and administrators, we did not meet our goal. Now, again, when you look at administrators and staff specialists, that's a real small number of people. Staff specialists is only about 64 people. So when you have just a few people leave, significantly reduces your percentage more than it would in some of the other areas. So that was that area. For the next area was 90% of staff will complete one professional learning course or training beyond district required training courses. So we do have some courses that every staff has to complete. Last year we introduced Vector. And we almost met that. We're at 87.83%. So almost had that 90% rate of staff taking at least an additional training or course that was outside of what was required for them. And then the last area was something new that we created, which was called the Think Tank. We wanted to get 40 staff representatives there, and really that was about feedback, ideas, and how we can better retain and recruit staff to the district, and overall improve the overall work experience. And we did have over 40, but not all of them showed all the time. So we actually calculated at 38. But it was really a great opportunity to just listen and get some good feedback, and be able to also educate our staff on kind of different areas of our district and how things work. So we're looking to continue that this year as well, and that will be more information will be coming out that soon. But yeah, so there's my 3 areas.
I know for me personally, just to have more information and context, it would be wonderful to be able to establish a way that we can see employee exit surveys.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
one thing I can tell you is when we look at, because staff, when they do leave the district, they have to tell us why they're leaving.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 top reasons in for every group, classified, licensed, and staff specialist and admin, typically number 1 is moved. Number 2 is retirement. Number 3 is family reasons. And that's pretty consistent over the last 4 to 5 years.
Cameron actually wrote down, circled it. I think it'd be helpful to have like a report at the end of each year of like how many, in each of those categories left, how many of them marked moved, how many of them marked that, and then we can talk about what the exit survey could potentially look like.
Yeah, for sure. You got it.
So Mr. Smart, I know they're required to say the reason, but is there any setup beyond that for interviews?
Yeah, we have
more
2 ways
in-depth
that,
surveys,
so one is they all get an opportunity to do an exit survey if they choose. Not everybody participates, but they do have the opportunity. We offer that online, so they can just go online, fill it out. We also offer in person. So if somebody says, I'd really like to talk to someone, we have staff at our office that will meet with them personally and take that information.
And is that
gets shared
option disseminated to every person who's leaving, to every staff member? They know that for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That it's an option.
They can
Okay,
choose.
thank you.
So if I could just add, I know that when we're looking at exit interviews, people want to know who's getting that information, and if there's a protected way of reporting why they're actually leaving. Who gets the information? Is there any classified? Is it confidential or protected?
It just comes to me. I mean, when they complete like an in-person exit survey, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, is there, I know that.
The other ones are anonymous. So when somebody does an exit survey online, it's anonymous. So we don't know who it is, but it'll have all the categories that they can answer questions. If it's in person, obviously we're going to know who that is, but that's not shared with very few people.
But you're the only one that gets that information?
I get that initially. Then I might meet with, if it's from a particular school site, I might meet with a PSSG to discuss that with them. To then disseminate that to the principal if need be.
Is there a way we could see what questions are asked?
Sure, I can get you that information. Yeah.
Okay. The 4th section is around use effective and transparent communication to build trust. So Mark Belcher will share.
Rolling right into communication and trust. We have 4 goals, and spoiler alert, they were met. Our first goal was around media coverage, making sure that the media coverage that's out there is at least factual, hopefully positive and factual. We only monitored about 2% of that coverage being negative, so a good success story there. Our second goal is around making sure that we're serving more than the ASD 20 community, at least the ASD 20 community, but more than the ASD 20 community on our website. We found that we were meeting and exceeding that goal. We find that a lot of folks out there are actually referencing our website as a website to copy from. So we found some interesting statistics as we were monitoring that throughout the year. Our third goal was around ensuring that we're fostering an informational and uplifting social media environment, making sure we're serving our families as they're online. We found that we were growing in that capacity, exceeding 5% growth. And then finally, our fourth area was promoting parent engagement. We focused this year on Parent Square, and we'll determine if we want to continue to focus on that moving forward. I think we probably will, but we found that we exceeded the goal of getting folks to download the app in the first year by quite a lot. If we continue with this goal, we'll increase that quite a lot as well. So that's it for communication.
Thank you.
All right, Becky, resource optimization.
All right, so our main two goals in this area are related to the Public Schools on Military Installations projects. The first one speaks to Douglas Valley, the PK8. Our design proposal has already been approved, and we are getting close. This fall is our estimation of the construction proposal being submitted. With respect to Air Academy High School, I'll actually provide more information of this when I get to the decision items section. But what we are doing a little differently is this is going to be a combined design construction proposal. So it's a little different than the one for Douglas Valley, and we anticipate that being submitted in the spring.
Thank you. And then finally, Jolene's going to bring us home with community partnerships.
So this is an area that the superintendent has been working on building that roundtable relationship, and she participates 4 times a year in this community activity. And then I just want to say thank you to all the individuals that have helped. I jokingly said I'm the clerk, which is literally what I am. But all of you guys that collaborate and build the strategic plan and do the work behind the scenes, I think this is a huge, so thank you to all of you. I don't know. I got all the kids here.
You did really well.
Do you all have any other questions for us this evening?
I don't believe so. Thank you all so very much. All right, rolling on into C, overview of the portable buildings in District 20. Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Andy.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for allowing us to take some time to present this. This has been a subject that's had a lot of interest from our community, and wanted to take a moment to just provide some additional detail on this. So as you may have guessed from the title of the presentation, we do in fact have portable buildings in this district, and we own actually 50 of them. But we have 53 that are on site. 3 of them that are on site are owned by daycare providers, and they maintain those. And portable buildings are really intended to be designed and moved easily and easily constructed. Now, I do want to take a moment here and just address a point of vocabulary. Some people refer to these as modular buildings, and they're not really truly modulars. These are portable buildings. Modulars are built in a factory, pieces of which are then shipped to site and then assembled on site. We use portable buildings, which are fully constructed off-site. They utilize 2x6 construction, which is very comparable to a residential home. And portables are not intended to be permanent structures, and as such, we do not install them on foundation systems. We actually install them using a stand system with some skirting around the bottom, and they're elevated up above the ground. And so they have no actual direct ground contact because of that. Now, portables typically have a lifespan of around 20 years, but with proper maintenance and capital investment, that lifespan can be significantly extended over a much longer period of time. And finally, these portables are much faster and easier to permit and install than permanent building additions, and they allow for much more flexible space at a much more reasonable price. Just so you have some context on the pricing, you know, when we install a new portable, we have two different types of portables. One, we refer to them as dry and wet portables. Wet portables simply have plumbing in them, and dry portables do not. Dry portables, the total price to install one is somewhere around the $500,000 range. Whereas wet portables are north of $600,000 each. Now, comparing that to the price to install a permanent addition onto a building, a very low end estimate of that would be about 1.3 million for the same comparable square footage. So these are a much more cost effective option that we can sometimes use to meet the needs of the building. And it is the practice within Colorado's school districts that portables do tend to have a little bit longer use than really anyone would care to. And that's the case here with D20 as well. And it's really linked to resource availability. Just because of the high price of installing the permanent additions. And typically the funding source that we would use for a permanent construction would be bond funds, because our cap reserve budget simply cannot support the cost of building permanent additions. And while we use these buildings, it is important to note as well that we do not have any buildings that, when we look at the portables capacity along with the permanent construction as well, we don't have any buildings that exceed our architectural capacity limits. Now, mechanical systems we refer to as things like plumbing, heating, and other systems in the buildings. And depending on the age of the portable and the type of the portable, these mechanical systems can vary quite a bit across the board. But all units do have HVAC systems that include heating and cooling. As I mentioned, plumbing is not present in all units, but when it is installed, each of the portables do have 2 bathrooms. You see a sample of what one of those bathrooms would look like, along with another picture up here of some of a conference room that shows how some of the space is actually used in these buildings. Now, we have 24 wet portables and 26 dry portables as well. So we looked at how these portables were used, and we felt the best way to break this up is who's in them and how long in the day are they in them. And so 23 of the portables that we have are used for students more than half of the day. 13 portables are used by students less than half of the day, and 14 of these portables are not used by students at all. They're used as offices and storage and things like that. Now, for the portables that do have students in them for the full day, some of those are grade level classrooms where it's the same student that's in the portable for the entire duration of the day when they're not in there for specials or exploratories. And the rest of them are not in there the full day. So could be rotating through for a high school English or history class, or it could be that a portable is being used as reading support or some other means to educate our kids, but they're just not in there the whole time. Now, we wanted to talk a little bit about maintenance and capital investment as well. And for that, I'm going to hand things over to our Director for Facilities, Michael Redmond.
So for the maintenance for the portables, we prioritize them the same as we do the permanent buildings. For work that we do with them, we have 2 types of work orders. We have preventative work orders where we go in and support more proactive efforts to maintain the structure and the mechanical systems and try to get things before big problems arise. Some of those examples would be with our HVAC system, going in and switching out filters, looking at belts, or not the belts, side note on that one. Oh yeah, belts, hoses, the lubrications and bearings that we go through and look at that. We would also do preventative maintenance on the roofs, of which we look at anything from inspecting the flashing, the condition of the shingles, looking at, are we getting runoff from the material of the shingles coming down? Matter of fact, we're in the process of starting that up. Began this week on doing that. We have moved it up in response a lot to the rain that we've been having, and going through and checking all of our portables as we're going through. You do have our repair work orders that are submitted and evaluated, and then we kind of go through and determine what the needs are and assign a priority based on the safety and impact and cost of what we have to do. And that repair work order might be something for broken window, doors dragging, anything that just kind of comes up through the day-to-day use of the portable. Cap reserve funds are used and also utilized for the building upgrades. For example, we'd use cap reserve for roof replacements. And we do have cap that we use for replacing the wood decks on the portables to the metal decks that you start seeing more on the portables. As we go through, all work that's done on the portables documented through our work order system. And practice has been over the years that when we do that, the portables have been included as a part of the bigger building, the bigger complex. Because of and wanting to have kind of the historical record keeping, and kind of continuity with any staff that might be changing, we are going to adjust that and change the records for that moving forward. So it reflects, here's work that's just done on the portables. So it's easier to track and see.
So we often get questions regarding indoor air quality, and I'm going to attempt to explain this without burying everyone in a lot of technical references and regulatory references here. So the state, federal, local authorities have a lot of rules that govern how we handle our indoor air quality. And we're actually pretty lucky because the state compiles all of these rules and regulations into a single document called 6 CCR 1010-6, which is the rules and regulations governing schools. This is a very comprehensive document that tackles really just about everything that we would want for operational guidance for the schools. And what it really comes down to is this: the state requires us to ensure safe and healthy indoor air quality for all school buildings and doesn't differentiate between portables and our permanent structures. Now, we've had a number of questions regarding radon testing in the portables, and that's governed by the CCR document as well, but not only the CCR document. It actually points to a more technical document that's produced by the American Association of Radon Scientists and Technologists. That's the Protocol for Conducting Measurements of Radon and Radon Decay Products in Schools and Large Buildings. Now, in the CCR document, it points to a 2015 standard. However, in our consultations with the health department, there's a new technical document that was published in 2023. We are allowed to refer to the 2023 document by health department standards. Now, in that standard, because of the way that our portables are actually installed, we're not actually required to do radon testing in them because they don't have ground contact. And because, remember, we talked about earlier, they're installed on the stilts with some skirting. The 2023 document does not require us to actually do testing. However, we had a great deal of public interest in radon testing in the portables, so we went ahead and did that. And we actually took 204 samples throughout the district. The radon testing protocols established by AARST set a procedure that you would use to do those testings to create some redundancy in the testing to make sure that you've got really good results. Now, for us, every single one of our portables tested far, far below any actionable level by the EPA. And they actually tested way below the level where you'd actually have to go out and do any kind of additional investigation. And what it really came down to is most of the portables were at or below the detection threshold of the test. So they can't say, no, you don't have any because there is a threshold where the test will actually show a result. But we were at or below the threshold of that test for the vast majority of the portables in use. Now, radon's only one component of indoor air quality, and we look at a wide variety of things, and they may include humidity, carbon monoxide, particulates in the air, fungi, volatile organic compounds, asbestos, radon, etc. And what's important to understand, though, is that when going through and talking about indoor air quality, we need to look at not only what is in the air, but also the concentrations that those compounds are in the air. So our process for air quality testing is a responsive process that can be initiated a couple different ways. One, observations from our preventive and maintenance work, preventive maintenance and repair work, or by implementing our environmental assessment process. And so that's a process where someone can go and request that we take a look at air quality because of some concerns that they have. Now, one of the things I want to highlight here is that mold and other contaminants are really everywhere in our environment. Our industrial hygienist that we work with has regularly referred to the fact that even in aerospace clean rooms that they test, they still find mold. And so it is just ever present, and particulates and other contaminants can raise or lower depending on our weather. And so, for instance, if we have prolonged periods of high humidity, that can raise mold counts. Whereas if we are 2 or 3 weeks into a deep freeze, that can lower them. Likewise, if there's a wildfire, particulates will go up. And but if it rains for a number of days, those particulate counts in the air may drop. And so our air testing process, really the way it works is it's initiated by some type of request. We review those issues with building leadership. We do a mechanical inspection of our buildings. And then, depending on what we've seen there, we may go out and get some air testing done. And when we do, air quality testing is always completed by an independent qualified third party. We do not have the capacity to do that internally. We work with an industrial hygienist who we share all of the concerns that have been brought to us, all of the investigations that we have done to date, and we review the mechanical systems of the building and various other aspects that would be relevant to that air testing. And then they tell us how the testing is to be done. And so we work very closely with them to get those results back, and then we either have no further action is required or maybe action is required. If action is required, it's possible that we could have remediation or abatement that is done. Now, again, a little bit of vocabulary here. Remediation is generally taken when there is not a specific identified source of mold in a structure or a specific source of a problem. Whereas abatement occurs when there is a specific identified source. So, for instance, if they were to find a mold source that was actively growing, or maybe just wasn't growing but was there, that would require abatement. Whereas if we go in and just clean the space, that would be remediation. Now, based on what is found and the actions that are taken, we may or may not need to do a second set of air sampling. And no matter what happens, we do share those results with the relevant parties because it is very important for us to make sure that people that have a concern have the information in front of them. And so there has been a lot of community interest with mold and radon testing in these, and it's particularly at Chinook Trail Elementary School recently. There's been some great interest in that. We've worked with the health department to review those results and ensure that everything that we have meets or exceeds any standards that were there. In fact, Ms. Allen had some direct interaction with the health department that may be helpful for her to share.
I'll just give an example. Certainly, we had inquiries regarding two aspects. One started with the 4th grade portables. And to put some context, when Mr. Ristig talked about students in a portable for the day, this was those group of portables. And actually, we had communication with the health department at that point. The concern had been also shared with them. So I'm glad they reached out to us and they shared that. We were able to work with them. We sent them the results. When we first talked with them, they said they'd be there later that day. Once we sent the results, they said there was no need for an inspection. And then we did have, out of an abundance of caution, we went ahead and tested the 2 other portables at Chinook Trail Elementary School. One houses the Mandarin Chinese language instruction. The other is the ESL and resource portable. And that one returned 1 mold spore. And it would be classified as black mold, 1 mold spore. Although no source was identified, we went ahead, not only did we do remediation for that according to the recommendations of the report, but we proactively reached out to the health department because we want to partner with them. We have not a single thing to hide. And so we wanted to make sure that we were not missing anything. When I spoke with her, she's Meredith Lockwood. She's the Environmental Health Division Manager for the county. We went ahead and explained that we had the 1 spore, what our plan was for remediation, and that we wanted to retest. And she said to me, and I asked, can I quote you on this? Because I think it's important that you have confidence in our procedures and our diligence. She said, quote, you have, quote, gone above and beyond, end quote. She also says the work you've done is, quote, well above regulations. And so I share that information just so that you know, if we do find something that's problematic, we certainly want to address it as soon as possible. And we want to go the extra mile and make sure after they reached out to us based on a community concern, we then view them as a partner, and we want to make sure that they know what happened in our world and that they were giving us the thumbs up that our process to move forward was solid and well-founded.
Moving on, we did have some questions that have come up regarding accessibility. As we've mentioned before previously, these are raised structures, so we have to have an accessible path of travel in order to get into those structures. And so we use a ramp system on all of our portables in order to access those. Historically, those ramps were wood. They don't last a super long time, and so we've been replacing those with metal ramps. And we've gotten 36 of those done. The balance of those are scheduled to be done, and we will be taking care of those in the upcoming years using our cap reserve funds. Now, we also, in order to make sure that we have appropriate access to these areas, we have to worry about snow removal. We live in a snowy environment, and it regularly snows throughout the day when we have kids in school. And so we treat snow removal on these portables the same way we would with the walkways leading up to our permanent structures. And one of the complexities with these, though, is that these raised ramps do tend to accumulate snow a little quicker than what the ground does because they are elevated, just like a bridge would. And so we have a lot of hand shoveling that we do on these. A specific complication that we have, though, is the fact that the metal ramps tend to react negatively with the ice melt that we use. Same reason why we can't use a ton of ice melt on our district stadium benches. It will cause them to degrade at an accelerated rate. And so there's a lot of elbow grease that's put into keeping these clean throughout the day. And credit to that goes to our custodial staff at the sites. They work hard throughout the day to make sure that these portables remain accessible, and they can call our facilities team in order to get extra help when needed. Now, the next set of questions that we've had regarding portables has really dealt around safety procedures. And so for that, I've brought our Director for Security, Mr. Rich Payne, up to address those.
So thank you for having us do this presentation tonight. This is very important that we get the message out to everybody of we treat portables just as an extension of the building, and we do the same type of protocols and safety procedures inside of a portable that we do in a normal site in any of our normal buildings that are brick and mortar. We use a multi-layered approach strategy that focuses on safety and security efforts in 3 key areas: physical, informational, and procedural safeguards. Which that means is that the safety is going to be consistent throughout the district. Our procedures in safety and security is all of our sites when we conduct lockdown drills. It's identical at all 40 of our sites within the district. That also helps our first responders, so they know that if when they show up, there's not 40 different plans of how to respond to a situation. So we have consistency. We constantly work with our law enforcement officers, our SROs. They do attend our lockdown drills, and we continue to work with them on a daily basis, as well as summertime training. When we do active gunman training in the summertime, they're invited, they participate with us, and they're working through to make sure that they see the faces, they know who we are, and that we all have the exact same strategy of when we do approach a building in any type of a situation. So the portables, they all use the same safeguards. The standard response protocol, which is used across the district, it's also used in the majority of the school districts in the state of Colorado. It was developed by the I Love You Guys Foundation and a gentleman by the name of John Michael Keys. He lost his daughter at Platte Canyon High School in a tragedy that happened several years back. And so he worked with Adams County 12 School District. This safety program and protocols were produced by educators, law enforcement, and a parent who lost a child to a tragedy. And so it's been adopted across the state and actually nationwide and also international now, this program. It's a multifaceted program and safety procedures that covers every type of situation that could happen within our building, which are all of our evacuation drills, our shelter drills, everything that we have by policy that we require every single year. To date, we have done over 500, well, not every year we do about 572 plus drills that we track. Everything's tracked. Principals are held accountable for every single drill. All these drills are done with an after action report. All this information is confidential though. The reason it's confidential, state law under CRS 2232-109.1 is the Safe Schools Act. Under that act, the legislators put in there that all safety and security components within schools are protected, and we do not have to share that information out to the public, so that somebody out in the public couldn't try to get our information and try to figure out how to defeat our systems internally in the schools. So that's why that information is protected. We keep all that held, and if somebody were to do a core request, they get the response back that that's actually protected under CORA in the state of Colorado. So we stay up to date on all that. This is also tied into our superintendent's evaluation on an EL report, which you guys will be receiving next month. It is done in the rears, so it's done a year in past, but our goal and our focus, we have very strict guidelines in place. Drills have to be done by an certain date so that they're not missed, because the last thing we want to do is show anything. By missing one drill of over 500 something drills, it shows that our superintendent isn't in compliance with keeping kids safe in school. And I will tell you, it's my goal to make sure that we reach all those goals and that we're focusing on those things. And so when we come down to everything to do with safety and security, whether it's a portable or it's within our buildings, we're using the exact same procedures. And we make sure that everybody, I do a 1 hour live training with all staff as well. I cover everything to do with portables as well. I do the live training so that if a teacher has a question at the end of my training, I walk out to the portable, I walk out into a classroom and I sit and I work with the teachers to show them how to make them successful, the location to put the kids in. And that's the goal of having myself go out. I do majority of these, I do about 40 something of these trainings a year, as well as I also do about over 40 tabletops. And all this is required by state law under the same statute of making sure that we have a crisis emergency team at every single level. At every level with that crisis emergency team, elementaries have about 8 to 10 folks on it. Middle school has about 14 to 16. High schools have up to about 22. It's mostly administrators, could be some counselors, it could be the building manager, and we go through the different drills every single year, the tabletops. Like I said, once again, this is all required by state legislation that we complete this, and then we cover a different topic every year to make sure that everybody is on the same page. We also do work hand in hand with our partners with the Air Force Academy. When we do our lockdown drills at the Air Force Academy or training in the summertime, we actually train with the security forces as well. Keep in mind, their rules of engagement are a little different than our rules of engagement, but by working together as a team and going through movements and training together, it gives everybody the understanding of what's the goal when we get called to a major situation at a school.
Thank you. The last piece that we would like to talk about is building disposal, because these are not permanent structures. So we have to know how we're going to get rid of them. And we like to dispose of these at the end of their usable life for the district. Now, we have about 6 portables that have been identified right now for disposal. Mountain Ridge is currently working to get rid of their 3 portables. Challenger also has some that are storage units that we're working to get rid of as well. So of those 50, 6 of them are slated to be disposed of. However, disposal can come in a number of different ways. We could potentially sell these, we could potentially donate them, or even demolish them. Demolition, though, is a costly endeavor. It's about $20,000 per unit. It involves a permitting process, and the lack of resources can sometimes delay the demolition process. Now, we use these portables typically for a while, and when they reach the end of the usable life for us, it's oftentimes the case that they're just at the end of their usable life. So making sale or donation not always a feasible option for these structures. And so we do have some that we are slated to dispose of. Really, the highest priority for disposal are those not being used for student learning space. Those that are limited to office use or storage at the moment, those are the ones, the 14 portables that we have that fall into that category really are the disposal process and are top for disposal. And we like to make these decisions as a consultative process with the sites. We do not want to just arbitrarily remove space that is valuable for these sites. And so we work with the principals, we work with the staff at the schools to determine what can be moved in and what needs to stay in these extended spaces. So thank you for your time on that. We have plenty of ability to answer questions if anyone has any.
Director Yanez.
I took lots of notes. I'm trying to read them again. Okay, so once you have a portable, essentially can live for 20 years on the property, whether it's used for storage or students. That's kind of how it is, because it's not going to get moved off prior to that based on cost, essentially, because they're costly to move. For reference, I just moved a 6x6 shed across the same zip code, and it was like $800. So it's not cheap to do that. And that's a little 6x6 shed. So I guess I'm asking then, are those considered classroom seats then until the portable goes away? Or if the school's using it as a storage facility, it gets earmarked as that. So essentially, if it's a classroom, then the student enrollment can go up to what also the portable holds as well.
So a couple components there that I want to answer, and part of that I'll hand over to Ms. Allen to answer the capacity question. But So 20 years is a projected lifespan. We do have plenty of portables that last longer than 20 years due to our maintenance program.
And I
so,
would say significantly longer, because I don't want to deceive on that. You know, while 20, as Mr. Ristic pointed out, we treat these facilities, you know, with the same kid gloves that we would our typical brick and mortar full scale facilities. So we've got portables that range, you know, could be double that 20 years. And they are functional because of the maintenance and treatment. So I just wanted to make sure, didn't want you to give the impression like, well, yeah, we might have one to 21 years. No, some are significantly longer.
And in terms of moving them, you are correct. Moving them from site to site is a very pricey endeavor. And I'd have to refer to Mr. Redmond for the specific cost, but if I recall correctly off the top of my head, moving them from site to site is upwards of $250,000 just to move the existing structure due to permitting and movement.
My understanding is that it was, and Mr. Redmond, please correct me if I'm wrong, but almost $300,000 to move the portable to Rockrimmon.
That's correct.
And then the last part of the question, if I wrote it all down, and if I missed anything, please just correct me, was referring to capacity on these portables. Ms. Allen, would you care to tackle that?
So what we do when we look at architectural capacity for a building is architectural capacity for a building, first of all, if you think about a building that has a pool and a gym, they all have a gym. We're not counting that space in the architectural capacity. And so we have that number, and then we also look at the portables, how many are there, and then we assign a value to how many students could go ahead and be in that space. Even for a school that is not utilizing it for a classroom space, they could potentially do that. And so we still put that in, and we have a big spreadsheet. We'll have the architectural capacity, and then next to it, we'll list the number of portables, and we track that, and we work with facilities. They'll say, no, Beck, that portable's no longer there, or we added this portable at Rockrimmon, and we'll adjust it because that gives us an overall picture of how many students could actually be enrolled in that site. We are often far below that. But again, just to be accurate about what facilities we have on campus, that's the data we put in the spreadsheet that we keep for that information.
Thank you.
Director Wilburn, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mrs. Shandy. So I would like to wind the clock back on this entire, it's been about a 2-week fire drill or so, and get to the origins of all of this, because I think process is extremely important. So there was an email sent to the board, well, to 4 members of the board. For whatever reason, I wasn't included, but of course it was forwarded to me. This email contained a picture of what appears to be 4 Petri dishes with what appears to be mold growing in them. And what, Mr. Belcher, I guess you're the one to answer this question. What do we know about these samples? So there's no surrounding context. They're not dated. We don't know where they were placed. We don't know when they were placed. Do we know what the chain of custody is? Where does this even come from?
Sure, and I think anybody who's part of this presentation could answer that. But we did receive a parental concern that had some photos attached. We did ask that individual for information surrounding the testing. What were the results? Would a lab report be available? We didn't receive any information around that. We also didn't glean much from the photos themselves. So we moved forward with our process kind of as Pete laid out.
Okay, so based on some pictures of some Petri dishes, no one knows where they came from. That's how this whole thing got rolling. I guess Mr. Payne, if he's still there, we could conceivably figure out who, how, and when these were placed in the buildings. I assume we've got video surveillance everywhere. Is there a way that we can wind the clock back and find out where these even came from?
So we have a 20-day retention. in reference to our videos, and that's in our, written in our district policies for retention on video. And so we could go back 20 days to see if there was somebody that went into a building, but we can't always tell if somebody carried it out in a backpack or in a purse or something. We wouldn't know if that person did something and then exited the building, and we can't see what they have. So technically you could, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack unless you have a specific day of going back to say, when did this person come in? We can go back 2 weeks. That's 14 days. That's going to give us about 4 days that we might have some information or to look back on videos for those days. So it's possible it could happen, but it's really kind of a long shot, I would say.
Okay.
But if you would like us to do it, I could put some people on it and be more happy to go down that path. But like I said, it's I think that personally, the presentation that we provided here and that Mr. Ristic and Mr. Redden and myself, all from the operations thing, is that we worked very diligent to make sure that our buildings are in good condition. We're constantly working together as a team to make sure that we support each other and support the schools. And so I just feel comfortable that what we have in place is very good.
I got you. It's a tight window, even though it's just 2 small buildings. It's needle in a haystack. Well, it'd sure be nice to get that information. So if my notes are correct, and I guess now we're over to Ms. Allen, based on these pictures, we've got 204 radon tests. We paid a third party for 3 mold tests. We did remediation, even though nothing was really found. What was found was a single mold spore. You reached out to the County Board of Health, asked them to come, inspect and retest, and they basically said, we're not going to waste our time. You don't really have a problem. Do we know yet how much money we've spent on all these tests and third-party vendors?
And Mr. Wilburn, I'm just going to just give a little bit more context for our listeners, the steps. The first wave of requests that we got was specifically about radon. And so that is where it started. And what we did at that point, it wasn't specific to Chinook Trail. It was more widespread, just concerns regarding radon.
Excuse me, Ms. Allen, I'm really sorry. You cut out for just a half a second. Did you say WAVE, W-A-V-E?
I did. And so when those waves of requests came in, again, in an effort for transparency, we had all the confidence that every portable was safe. But it's important to us. We wanted to be able to show that to our community. So we tested 51 portables. It was just supposed to be 50 because 3 we don't own, but it ended up being 51 of them. 204 samples. The vast majority, Mr. Ristig and I literally went through page after page after page. The vast majority of the results were less than 0.3 picocuries per liter. The highest reading we got was 0.7. For context, the Environmental Protection Agency sets the action level at 4.0. They also do say in some of their writings, if you get a reading of 2.0, you might want to consider some other pieces. I say that to give you the delta between where we tested and where any actionable levels are. That process costs $3,100.67. The next thing that came in really was related to the concern for the 4th grade portable with the picture that you had mentioned. And so we ended up testing there. We very quickly, in a matter of days, were able to have Apex, the industrial hygienist, go ahead and report out on that. We shared those reports with the community. They did not show a health hazard. We had very general recommendations. Once we received that report, we literally took care of them overnight. That is the one that we did not reach out to the health department. Someone in the community reached out to the health department and they shared with us that they had a concern. That is when they said, we'll be there in a few hours. That was a morning. They said, we'll be there at 11 a.m. We said, well, we have the results of what we've done. We sent it, all the paperwork we had a draft report, not a final yet. And when they read that, they informed us there was no need for them to come. Out of an abundance of caution, again, caring for the community in terms of their concerns, we went ahead and continued with Apex to test the other 2 portables on site at Chinook Trail Elementary. That is the one that returned 1 single black mold spore. We were told that this could be literally tracked in on someone's shoe or any of those types of things. But we, out of an abundance of caution, again, we had a remediation company come in. And so the testing for Chinook Trail Elementary School for all of the Apex was $9,000. And for the remediation work that evening, where the company came and they did not find any visible mold growing, but again, we wanted to remediate. They over the years, just like in your own home, you might have had a lot of rain and you have something with a little water stain. Those things were replaced. Out of abundance of caution, spray was put that would be used for mold growth, although we did not have any visible. And the next morning we had Apex back first thing in the morning, a little about 7 a.m. They did another test and that test came back completely 0 for any black mold. And we communicated that again. When we found the 1 black mold spore, we immediately let the entire Chinook Trail Elementary School community know. And within minutes of getting the report, we were able to work with Mr. Shoemaker, and it was field day that day. There had been no students in the portable that day. Within minutes, we were able to divert the students going to their Mandarin Chinese instruction class because we did not want to take even a shred of any risk. And so we moved them inside and we let our community know. As soon as we did the remediation and we got the results back from Apex after the retesting, we immediately again communicated with the community because we have 0 to hide.
Okay. So if I've got this correctly, radon testing alone was $3,100. We paid third-party testing services, Apex, another $9,000. So that's $12,100 in hard costs. And then soft costs on top of that, your time, Pete's time, janitorial staff time, materials used in remediation, what have you, on top of that. So it's probably safe to say this is a $15,000, $20,000 exercise?
Yes, well, the remediation company that we brought out for the 1 black mold spore, that was $7,118. And again, for our integrity was being questioned, all of those pieces. So it was important for us to have a third-party company come in and do that work.
Okay. Oh, so that was a third party for the remediation. So now we're up to roughly $19,300. Let's round it up to $20,000 to correct an issue brought to our attention via 4 pictures of Petri dishes and 1 mold spore found that the Department of Health said you don't have a problem. Do I have those numbers correct?
You have them correct. And again, I want to share that some of that instills fear in people. And we wanted to be sure, we would always use a third-party industrial hygienist. We would always use a third party for radon testing. And for the remediation, we wanted again to have a third party come in because we wanted people to have confidence in the process that we were taking.
Understood. Thank you, Mrs. Shandy.
Director Payne.
So just looking at what was sent in, one of the things you said, Deputy Superintendent Allen, was that there was a wave of requests regarding radon. Were those Cora requests?
Sure. So around the first, group of inquiries, because I mean, they're while we're calling them a wave, you could call them a group. We had a couple emails, we had a couple Cora requests, and that was around radon. As soon as we started to receive a few inquiries about indoor air quality testing, we received a couple emails, a couple Cora requests. Yes.
Is that from constituents that have children in those schools?
In D20 schools, sure. I'd have to go back to our notes and our records to determine if they have students specifically in the schools in question.
Just because I'm looking, is there a pattern of behavior of multiple core requests from the same constituents?
Generally, yes.
Thank you for that. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the picture that was submitted to me, like when a parent has a concern of the health and safety of their children and submits a photo but removes the metadata behind the photo and puts in a picture of 4 Petri dishes. And if anyone would like to Google it online, it's a very disruptive tactic across the board nationally of a way to get attention. But when you had a Petri dish that you had taken a secret sample out of your child's classroom and refused to answer where you found it to help in the investigative process determine if there was a concern for the welfare and safety of the children in that building, did you get any response from the parent when we asked for additional evidence as to where those samples came from and how we could potentially look to provide, with all of this expense, a more robust and accurate solution to determine if this was validated information or verified photos of actual incident?
We did not directly receive any of that information, no.
That in itself causes me, as a trained investigator, a 27-year law enforcement officer, a great deal of concern, because this has created a lot of disruption to a school district that has the heart of doing something very transparently to protect the children, and health and safety is a priority of this board, this cabinet. And that in itself is very concerning. So I do think we need to continue to have that conversation of continual disruption to this district.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Belcher, how many people have we are signed up to speak during public comment section 1?
3 commenters.
The board welcomes public comment on issues related to the operation and conduct of district schools in accordance with board governance policy GP 4.4. For members of the public who have registered to comment on tonight's meeting, the board has reserved 2 public comment sections. This first public comment section is for individuals who are speaking on specific agenda items and ASD 20 students. ASD 20 students will be called first, after which individuals will be called in the order that they appear on the sign-up sheet. The second public comment section is for individuals who wish to speak on a general topic not on the agenda. Individuals will be called in the order that they appear on the sign-up sheet. Each individual speaker will be limited to 2 minutes of comment. Individual speakers may not cede their time to other speakers. Please keep in mind that students often attend board meetings. Speakers' remarks, therefore, should be suitable for an audience that includes kindergarten through 12th grade students. Out of respect for all speakers, please refrain from cheering, clapping, snapping, or speaking out during public comment. The board president will recognize each speaker and may interrupt, warn, or terminate a speaker's statement that is unrelated to the operations or conduct of the school district or disruptive to an orderly, civil, and productive meeting. Examples of comments that may be disruptive to an orderly, civil, and productive meeting include obscenities or profanities, comments that constitute harassment on the basis of one or more protected classes, and/or personal attacks against any individual that exceeds permissible criticism of school operations or personnel in their professional capacity. Finally, as a reminder to all present, the board and staff generally do not respond to public comment. This is our opportunity to hear from students, parents, and patrons. The board may discuss public comments later in the agenda or on future agendas. Mr. Belcher?
So for our speakers tonight, if you hear that you're next up, feel free to come to the front of the room and take the podium next. Our first speaker tonight is a student, Frankie Hodgson, followed by Bernadette Guthrie.
Good evening. Good evening, board members. My name is Frankie and I'm a student here at D20. D20 has over 26,000 students across 40 schools. This means thousands of students every day across the street, morning and afternoon. The lack of safety and attention to the crosswalks is a serious danger. We've seen it We've seen it this year. A student in our own district at Eagleview Middle School was hit by a car on their way to school. Thankfully, they lived. But what if next time it doesn't end that way? I've seen it myself as I walk to school. I see cars speed up while kids are about to cross, a kid dash across the street so a car doesn't hit them, hesitating to cross, seeing kids stop in the middle of the street just for a car to not hit them. And worst of all, seeing your friend or neighbor almost get hit by a car. And what makes it even worse, and crossing guards may only work 1 hour a day, but that 1 hour saves lives. And what breaks my heart the most is that it feels like the members of the board are waiting until something terrible happens. Once a life is lost, there's no fixing it. No, I'm sorry, or we should have acted sooner, can bring a child back to their family. To you, crossing guards may not seem like that much, but they are. Here are a few suggestions for the district to make getting to and from school safer. Better pay. We should incentivize those that are able to participate in student safety. Community outreach. We could ask parents, community members, and high schoolers who need volunteer hours to help. Student and family partnerships. Families who live nearby could volunteer short-term while the district fills positions. Students shouldn't have to worry about if we'll make it across the street safely. We should only be worrying about our homework, our tests, or what's for lunch. Please, let's not wait until another student gets hurt before you act.
Our next speaker is Bernadette Guthrie, followed by Beth Hodgson.
We have our own portable presentation. This is Benny. He's one of the 4th graders at Chinook. I feel like I could have just come up here and you guys could have just asked me questions. Here's the Petri dishes that were not found on the internet. And there also seems to be a focus on a single mold spore when there were multiple types of toxic mold found in multiple portables. So just keep that in mind. We're also going to put these pictures up here of the other conditions in the portables. Amy, at the start of this meeting, you spoke about leading with compassion, love, and respect, and fostering safe environments for children. How sad just minutes later, parents like me were gaslit as you called our concerns untrue accusations. There's nothing untrue about the presence of toxic mold in portable classrooms. There's nothing untrue about HVAC maintenance not being done and filters not being changed for years. There is nothing untrue about the health issues that staff and students have had as a result of this neglect. There is nothing untrue about kids having no access to running water or bathrooms. There is nothing untrue about portables being a fraction as safe as brick and mortar buildings when faced with an active shooter situation. And there is nothing untrue about my child and thousands of others across the district being housed in neglected trailers while schools allow out of neighborhood and district choice into buildings over capacity. This isn't about demonizing anyone, it's about keeping kids safe. The fact that any of you have anything negative to say about me for keeping my child safe is sick. And if you want to pull the videos of the mold test going in the buildings, it was 22 days ago on back to school night. Orange bag, my husband had it on his arm. My husband's a cancer survivor. 2 years ago, he had a cancer caused by a common household item and is very concerned about what our children breathe. So Benny's happy to show you pictures, and you can keep the mold spores for Mr. Wilburn since he was upset he didn't get them.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Beth Hodgson.
You're being disruptive to this meeting. Please exit. Please exit.
Our next speaker is Beth Hodgson.
You're disrupting this meeting. Please exit.
Our next
Sir?
speaker is Beth Hodgson.
As of August 19th, the district could not provide an answer to how many of our portables are being used for students during this school year. As a parent of a child whose school has portables, this is highly concerning from a safety and security standpoint, especially in the world we live in today. The detached and often isolated location of portable classrooms makes them more vulnerable to outside threats. Security experts note that they often lack the robust security features found in main school buildings, such as fortified entryways and integrated alarm systems. In emergencies, the isolation of portables can hinder student access to vital facilities like restrooms and administrative offices, creating potential safety threats. While the initial cost of a portable classroom is low, ongoing costs can be much higher than those for a permanent building. Old or low-quality portables require frequent repairs, and maintenance is often neglected. I'm concerned how the use of these portables are affecting the health, safety, and learning environment for our students. Tonight's presentation states there are roughly 36 portables in use at this time. Per my Quora request in August, I was provided with the manufacture dates of all portables in the district. Only 12 have been manufactured within the last 20 years. Assuming the newest portables are the ones being used, at least 24 of those in use are past the life expectancy. 10 are between 20 and 30 years old, meaning 14 portables in use are over 30 years old. Since the district claims they didn't know what portables were in use, either maintenance was being done on all portables, including those not in use, or maintenance was not being completed, which would mean they cannot have their life expectancy extended. Poor insulation and faulty HVAC systems can lead to erratic and uncomfortable temperatures, making it difficult for students to concentrate. Students report that learning in a portable classroom makes them feel like their education is not being taken as seriously by the district. Some studies suggest that extensive use of portable classrooms is associated with lower student test scores and attendance rates. Why are we allowing so many students to choice in from both out of district and non-neighborhood schools if it only leads to overcrowding and a reliance on these portable structures? My heart goes out to the entire, and I hope you showed the same respect and
All right, we're going to take a 10-minute potty break since we've been sitting here so long. 2-minute warning, please find your seats. All right, we are back on decision items. We need a motion to approve Resolution 290-25 contract award for design build services for new Air Academy High School and appropriation from 2024 building fund.
Moved.
Second.
Discussion, please. Superintendent Haber.
Deputy McAllen.
Is this on? Oh, okay. Good evening. This is a resolution regarding the Air Academy High School project through the Public Schools on Military Installations program. And it's an exciting step that we're at. So we are ready now to dive in. And remember, we have to give a proposal to the federal government. But we are going to do a combination proposal where we show what we want to design and what we want to construct, because that will expedite the process. And given the fact that we've had some funding pieces, we want to move as aggressively as we can. So here is what you have in front of you. This particular resolution is doing two things. One is, if you approve it, then you would be allowing the district to move forward with a contract with non-construction. We put an RFP out for design construction. In your packet, you can see we had 4 companies. We had an evaluation team that evaluated all of the proposals, conducted interviews, and the recommended vendor is non-construction. So approval of this resolution would say that Superintendent Haber or her designee could move forward with executing a contract, a design build contract with non-construction for the Air Academy High School project. It looks a little different than what we normally do because we're still securing all of the funding. So there's going to be more steps than what we would normally do, like when we built Encompass Heights, let's say. The second big piece is we need some money to actually pay for at least our match, the best we can determine for the design. Now, remember, the bond that passed last November, we went ahead and we issued part 1, and eventually we'll get to part 2. So we issued $36.14 million back in February. $2 million of that is dedicated for matching funds for the design portion. The only thing that we have not sold is the other $47 million. Well, what does that represent? The $2 million and the $47 million, that is the $49 million for the matching funds for Air Academy project that was in bond language. We're not ready to issue those bonds. When we issue bonds, we need to be able to spend 85% of those proceeds within 3 years. We're not ready to issue that. We're estimating maybe in 2027. But the $2 million that we have in the building fund, you would be giving approval to appropriate that and put that towards the design. And once we get through the design phase, we estimate in the spring that we would be ready to submit our design construction proposal to the federal government for their consideration. But you have to leap first, right? You have to have a design and have sketches. It's like the chicken or the egg. You kind of can't wait till it gets approved to start because you need a design and you need construction plans to have that proposal move forward. So just a couple of contingency points just to mention. So it's possible 2 million might not be enough for the match for the design. If that's the case, I would come back for another resolution. We always, when we're working with building fund dollars, even if I had to add 200,000, we would make sure that you are aware of that. Secondly, let's just say, and I have no indication of this. We know the federal government, when they came for their federal evaluation team visit in June, said they are capping our funds at 120 million. So when I say this, please, I have no inside information. I am very hopeful things will move forward as they should. But I just want you to rest assured, if something fell apart later and there's no federal funds, we don't have to pay non-construction for what we would for, millions and millions. We only pay them for the work that they've completed. The other piece is when we would finally, and notice I say when because I'm confident, when we get to the point that a design construction award is given, I would come back again with another resolution because at that point, we know exactly the dollar amount and you would be able to consider that as well as that point. Do you have any questions for me?
I do.
Director Wilburn.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Having never been involved in a construction project of this scale, do you know how many different design ideas we could expect to be presented with?
Well, typically what happens, Mr. Wilburn, is similar to what you saw for Douglas Valley. So, for example, there's been a design advisory group working on that. It's made up of staff members from District 20, parents at Doug Valley. So we have Mrs. Shandy is part of that process, Superintendent Haber, Adrian Morey, the principal, and that team works for months with the architecture firm to really nail down, and they are doing that legwork, and they ultimately are making a recommendation as to the design that they would like to move forward with. And it goes through a rigorous process of input and edits and what can we afford and value engineering. Just like, I've built a new house and I want, all my dream is way more than my pocketbook. And so quite often you have to, no, that skylight has to go, or this thing has to go. And so that same process would happen again with Air Academy High School. It would be a collaborative process of a team coming together. Input would be gathered, a core team would work on it, and you're also massaging the price as well. And we have a very defined price, $169 million, maybe with some interest income, maybe with a little other sources, but we have a fixed amount. So that is also going to limit really, having 10 different designs because we have a very confined structure to work within, and we're confident that we can do that.
Thank you, Ms. Allen.
Any other questions or comments? Director Payne.
Ms. Allen, I just would say that reiterating having been there the day with the team from DOD, it was really great to hear because so often when we visit schools that are new builds across the country, they're not always built with safety in mind. And I know that that's been expressed with the architectural committee, but definitely with DOD. And in some conversations since then, especially with recent events, I do look forward to the architectural design and their efforts to make sure that they have that as a mindset as people visit that school once it's open. It's going to be a very proud moment for this district.
It sure will be. And please rest assured that when I talk about that collaborative process, that is Mr. Ristig from operations. That is Mr. Payne, our director for security, collaboration with security forces at the Air Force Academy. So that will be having a lot of experts, a lot of expertise put to that design.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Roll call, please.
Vice President Cons,
Aye.
Director Wilburn,
Aye.
Director Yanez,
Aye.
Director Payne,
Aye.
President Shandy.
Aye. We need a motion to approve Resolution 291-25 revised cost for relocation of Village Middle School to Mountain Ridge Middle School in 2025-2026.
Deputy.
We
Moved.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
discussion, please. Superintendent.
Yes, Deputy Becky on.
I'm welcoming also Dan Moores. I'm so proud of the operations team that you got to hear from this evening. They're all stars. You know, Mr. Ristig as Executive Director for Operations, Rich Payne, Director for Security, Mike Redmond, Director for Facilities, and then Dan Moores is a Facilities Supervisor. And if you talk to principals, I mean, they'll rave about Dan, about the work he does in the customer service. It's the truth. And Mike Redmond as well, all the customer service, the whole team. So it's a proud moment that I get to have you all just showcase your expertise and your heart for this work. So if you recall, back in February, we brought a resolution to you regarding moving Village Middle School from the Center for Modern Learning to Mountain Ridge Middle School. Now, at that time, EL 2.5 is pretty clear in that we don't even embark on a major renovation without presenting it to the board and having your blessing in a resolution to say, yes, we want to move forward. So we did that then, and we explained that project. And we asked for permission to move forward with that relocation, but also asked for an appropriation in our capital reserve of an amount of $1.15 million. Now that was based on an estimate at the time. We hadn't even moved into an RFP and all of that, because again, we need to make sure that the board is in support of that renovation. So I will tell you that when we progressed through that process, we actually had 13 companies put in RFP or their proposals, and Elder Construction was selected, and the dollar amount for that particular contract is actually less than $1 million. But because the whole project overall exceeds $1 million, the right thing to do is come to you and share that. But the price point, as these companies actually did, get in the weeds, get in there, look at the scope, it's a higher cost. Time has elapsed, etc. So it's actually $430,000 more than what we had come to that night when it was just based on estimates. And so this particular resolution outlines towards the end where those dollars would come from. Now, the first chunk, the $134,000 and change, Village Middle School, we've been working with them over time. When the previous principal was there, she had some plans for making facility improvements in that structure around different programming for kids. So they were really tucking away their dollars. They have just under $135,000 in reserve for those projects that we can move to that. And the remaining would come from the sale. We just sold just under $800,000 in revenue for the Cumber Vista site, and we can use about $295,000 of that to bridge that gap. But Mr. Moores is here as well because we didn't know if you might have some more specific questions regarding what could have been, you know, some of those increases in price based upon initial estimates.
Any questions? Vice President Cons.
I was just going to say, while you are here, Mr. Morris, if you want to quickly just kind of enumerate those.
Yeah.
Just kind of talk
Yeah.
about why we are where we are. So, like Becky said, when we started back in February, when she came to you guys in February, that number was based on some assumptions. We hadn't even had the building drawn yet. We hadn't had any really scope definition at that point. So it was working through that process. And once we got through the RFP with all the contractors, the elders, even none even put in for this one. An elder had been helping us before, kind of giving us it feels like this kind of dollar, and that's what we based our ask on. They even came back 300, about 320 higher than their original, once we got everything dialed in to meet the needs of the students and the programming for the principal. And so that's that. And think back again about that time tariffs started to be on people's lips a little bit. And so we've seen that escalation. Copper has gone up, steel, although we're not using much, it's still gone up. It still affects the end of the job.
So do you think it would have been similar with any contractor?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd still be coming back.
Okay.
In
I mean,
fact,
just the pricing.
well, and we had 13 companies
Did.
respond to the RFP and
Incredible. It's a relatively small project in my humble opinion. To have that many big time contractors, and even some of the mom and pops was just amazing. We had folks from Denver, Pueblo, and everywhere in between. It was amazing.
So it was a competitive process.
Very much so.
Very nice.
Very
Yeah.
much.
Any other questions?
Oh, I'm just going to add one.
Director
Just
Payne.
If I could, I just want to say after visiting them, I've been at that school now twice, and I really look forward to what it's going to be to get them into this new location, because I think it's going to really benefit the learning environment for this group of students.
I offer anytime any one of you want to come visit the project that's currently ongoing, please just get a hold of me and be happy to give you a tour.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, and our hard hats.
And no open-toed shoes.
Okay. Okay. Very
Don't
good.
even think about it.
All right. Roll call, please.
Vice President Cons,
Aye.
Director Wilburn,
Aye.
Director Yanez,
Aye.
Director Payne,
Aye.
President Shandy.
Aye. Mr. Belcher, how many people do we have signed up to speak during comment section 2?
3 commenters.
The board president will recognize each speaker, and consistent with GP 4.04, comments will be curtailed if remarks or behavior becomes inappropriate. The board president may interrupt, warn, or terminate a speaker's statement that is unrelated to the business of the school district, inappropriate for K through 12 students, or disruptive to an orderly, civil, and productive meeting. Thank you for your cooperation.
Our commenters this evening in order are Maura Sheldon, Amy Mushel, and Emily Vaughn. Maura?
Good evening, board members, and thank you for your time today. I last addressed you on June 12th, the same day I learned that 79 hours were going to be taken away of plan time, taken away from teachers, turned into student contact time. At that meeting, I expressed my serious concerns about this challenge, which I believe to be unnecessary. However, the response was that adjustments just need to be are required due to modifications related to UPK. At that time, I had not had the opportunity to fully analyze the data. Since then, I've confirmed with several district administrators that the afternoon preschool class is scheduled for 2.25 hour instructional hours, well above the 450 hours that are required. This results in 52.25 additional hours, more than 3 weeks of school unnecessary instruction time for the afternoon session. These additional hours have come at the cost of valuable planning time, which is especially critical for special education preschool teachers. Today, I'm here to respectfully ask why no action has been taken to address this issue. The additional 52.25 extra hours of student contact hours appear to be a mistake, and I urge the board to reconsider the decision that's in the best interest of both teachers and students.
Our next commenter is Amy Mushel, followed by Emily Vaughn.
Good evening. For the record, I want to submit language directly from a court filing in Guthrie v. Wilburn, Colorado Court of Appeals, case number 2024-CA1083. Answer brief filed August 27th, 2025. On page 23 of the answer brief, it states, Guthrie repeatedly in her opening brief, her anti-SLAPP motion, and her sworn affidavit labels Mr. Wilburn's quotation from Push as pornographic. Guthrie never reveals where her definition of pornographic comes from, and her repeated assertion that Mr. Wilburn admitted the material was pornographic is without support in the record. Mr. Wilburn certainly believes the language and subject matter of the books demonstrated they should not be provided to children at school, but he denies that any of the material he quoted was pornographic. This is significant. Mr. Wilburn campaigned for this board on a platform that depended heavily on removing what he called pornography from our libraries. Yet in his own legal filings, he denies that the passages he cited were pornographic. I urge the community to weigh that contradiction carefully, especially in the context of this board's recent decision to violate state law by discriminating against transgender students, and the decision to join a lawsuit against the Colorado High School Athletics Association that carries unknown legal expenses.
Thank you. Your timer is up.
Our final speaker is Emily Vaughn.
Tonight, we are reminded of compassion, civility, and respectful discourse, yet the actions of this board tell a different story. Board member Derek Wilburn went on a podcast and said, sometimes you've got to punch a bully in the mouth. He wasn't talking about courage, he was talking about a D20 parent. When that parent asked for accountability, she was met with a lawsuit, not humility. This isn't civic discourse, it's retaliation. While the board writes a blank check from the general budget to First and 14th political lawyers, our students and teachers pay the cost. Parents who raise concerns are brushed off as making accusations. Policies are quietly changed to hide business from public view. Poor requests are inflated until unaffordable. Derek still sits on this board after exposing children to sexually explicit material and using violent rhetoric towards parents. Discord chats with Nicole, Amy, and Derek include violent suggestions towards multiple D20 parents with different political and religious views. A D20 parent was doxxed, and Derek led a crusade against him at a city council meeting. So I ask you, as this community for compassion, where is your accountability? Rather than platforming a political provocateur, I ask, when was the last time you held a moment of silence for a D20 student lost to suicide or violence? Tonight, I hold you accountable. When will this board hold Derek accountable for exposing children to explicit materials, for intimidating parents, and for the board who has voted to spend a minimum of $100,000 in political litigations or over a historically low number of trans athletes in this district? Tonight, I witnessed toxic posturing and outright intimidation from Amy and Derek towards a parent fighting to keep her children safe, first from a predator and now to protect their learning environment. As the French moralist wrote, hypocrisy is the homage and vice pays to virtue. If your opening words were virtue, what we have witnessed tonight is pure hypocrisy.
All right, happy birthday to Deputy Becky Allen on September 13th. We'll save you from singing. Yeah. All right, board, was our business this evening focused on activities that promote and honor our mission statement, our belief statements, and our global end statement that remind us that all students will have knowledge, skills, and character necessary for successful transition to the next level, and upon graduation will be fully prepared for success? Did the board hear information tonight that would require the review or revision of a policy? Did the board hear information tonight that would require a new policy? Did the board hear information tonight that the board would like to include on future agenda? Director Yanez.
I was thinking, because CMAS isn't set up to pull apart like we heard, it might be fun to talk about writing in general across the district. It's just So something like an overview of offerings, curriculums used, state of grammar instruction, even clubs and activities. I was kind of thinking like how many kids are engaging in writing even outside of, so I was the
Wonderful.
features editor of my high school newspaper and then ended up majoring in writing. So I don't think that was by accident.
Very good. Ms. Ruckman, you have that?
And I think, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Vice President Cons.
Thank you. I think Mrs. Ruckman already has it, but related to the strategic plan. I think at least at a study session, future agenda, we were going to talk about exit interviews and that sort of thing. So.
And if the board is okay with this, and rather than just exit interviews, I'd like to have a full report on retention, like how many leave for, moving, how many leave for retiring, kind of like that full one since the, and then we can make some, suggestions on how that could be formatted so that you have the full context of what happens when people leave.
And survey questions.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Excellent. All of it. Thank you. All right, 21 attendees online are viewing the live stream. There is no executive session tonight. This meeting is adjourned.